invite Santosh Varghese, our General Secretary, to welcome the audience and the panel of experts.
Thank you, Harilal sir. A warm good morning to one and all. We all are well aware of the initiatives of the government of Kerala with respect to the introduction of 4-year degree program from the next academic year onwards. And the government of Kerala is busy preparing and fast progressing the introduction of 4-year program, not only in the colleges of Kerala, but also in various teaching departments of the state of Kerala. We know that, or we generally expect that with the introduction of this 4-year degree program, this 4-year degree program will result in a radical change with respect to the overall curricular framework and the structure of various graduate and undergraduate programs, not only in economics, in every branch of knowledge. And this change of the curricular framework, the content of the various courses, and the overall structure of various programs, all will result in a major departure with respect to the academic environment prevailing in the Kerala, prevailing in the state, and also regarding the manner in which we transact the curriculum content in the classroom. Okay. And with the introduction of this 4-year degree program, we will certainly experience a big change with respect to the entire proceedings through which we transact the curriculum to the students of our colleges. And on the other side, with respect to the teaching learning process, we are well aware about the growing disconnect between what we teach, what we learn within the classroom, and what we actually encounter in the social arena with respect to various social and economic phenomena. And this particular disconnect between what has been taught inside the classroom and what we encounter outside the classroom has been well articulated by one of the stalwarts of our profession, Professor Joanne Robinson of University of Cambridge, some 63 years back. And on the other hand, there happens a widening divide between the transacted curriculum content in the colleges and universities of Kerala, and also in the leading centers of our nation, especially the national institutes and at the top level institutes in the world. So we have to address all these things. The growing disconnect between what has been taught inside the classroom and what we encounter in the real world, the widening divide with respect to the content of the transaction, the transacted content in the colleges and universities of Kerala and outside Kerala. So we have to benchmark in which manner we have to make all these changes, especially the curriculum changes, when the new 4-year degree program will be introduced in the state. And we also know that once this 4-year degree program is being introduced, we have to radically restructure the curriculum framework of the postgraduate education as well. So these are the challenges that we have to address if we want to make our discipline a much relevant one. So it is against this background, the Kerala Economic Association has initiated to conduct a wide-ranging discussion, leading to scholarly deliberations and academic debates, so as to finalize what should be the ideal curriculum content, what should be the overall curricular objective in our disciplinary domain. This is a challenging one, but the Kerala Economic Association has decided to take this challenge and has started this humble step, yet a determined one, to deal with all these issues. We have this seminar, we have this workshop, and for this workshop, the chief guest of this workshop is none other than the eminent economist and the patron of Kerala Economic Association, Professor M.A. Umman. We belovedly call him as Umman sir. He's a leading economist and the former chairman of the State Finance Commission. On behalf of all who have assembled here, and on behalf of all the participants who have joined this workshop in the online mode, and on behalf of the Kerala Economic Association, I extend you, sir, a hearty welcome to this academic discourse. Then we have the president of the Kerala Economic Association, Professor K.N. Harilan. On behalf of the KEA, I extend you, sir, a hearty welcome to this academic discourse. Then we have Professor K.J. Joseph, Director, Gulati Institute of Finance and Taxation. He is also the former president of Kerala Economic Association. Without the support and cooperation of Joseph, sir, this program would not have been materialized. He is so generous to extend whatever be the facilities available in gift for the success of the activities of KEA. On behalf of the Kerala Economic Association and on behalf of everybody who has assembled here, I extend you, sir, a hearty welcome to this scholarly deliberation. Then we have the resource persons for the workshop. Professor Surajit Masundar of Center for Economic Studies and Planning of Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He needs actually no introduction. He has first-hand experience regarding the teaching learning process of colleges of our country, especially the colleges under Delhi University. And we know that the colleges of Delhi University is widely regarded as one of the best centers where undergraduate education is being pursued. And also, he's a well-known economist and professor of economics at the Center for Economic Studies and Planning of JNU, New Delhi. On behalf of the Kerala Economic Association and on behalf of everybody who has assembled here and on behalf of the participants in the online mode, I extend you, sir, a hearty welcome to this academic discourse. Then we have Dr. Alexan Thomas of Asim Premji University, Bangalore. And we know that Asim Premji University of Bangalore is participating with the core economics education program initiated by Professor Samuel Bounds and Wendy Carlin. The Arjun Jaydev of that Department of Economics of Asim Premji University is leading that core program in India. And Alexan Thomas is an young faculty member associating with the Department of Economics of Asim Premji University. He's a well-known faculty member, has written many papers in Hindu, in Economic and Political Weekly, and so on. On behalf of the Kerala Economic Association, I extend you, Alex, a hearty welcome to this scholarly deliberation. And we have one more resource person, Dr. R. Hemant Kumar, Principal at Manurapan College. He is also the executive member of Kerala Economic Association. And Hemant sir has made a very important write-up with respect to the curricular changes, especially the changes that we envisage with respect to the content of the various programs. On behalf of the Kerala Economic Association, I extend you, sir, a hearty welcome to this workshop series. Then we have 4 responses from the side of the students. We have Devika Vinod of Asim Premji University, Bangalore, Ajina Tangam John, the M Research Scholar of University of Westminster, London, Naveen Hari, the doctoral scholar in economics at Texas University, US, and Vishnu Priya VV, doctoral scholar in economics at Indian Institute of Space Technology. On behalf of Kerala Economic Association and on behalf of all the participants of this workshop, I extend you, friends, a hearty welcome to this academic discourse. Then we have Professor Godwin S.K., Treasurer of Kerala Economic Association. He will deliver the vote of thanks. On behalf of the KEA, I extend you, Godwin, a hearty welcome to this workshop program. Now we have the participants. We have circulated a registration form and we have received almost near to 300 registrations for this all important workshop on the economics education, the curriculum changes and economic education. And almost 40 persons have assembled here directly in the offline mode to participate in this workshop. So without the participation of teachers, researchers, and students, this workshop would not have been materialized. So on behalf of the Kerala Economic Association, I extend a hearty welcome to everybody who has assembled here in the boardroom of GIFT to participate in this workshop. and all those who have joined in the Zoom platform to make the deliberations and debate a rich experience. Hearty welcome to this workshop. With these words, I conclude my welcome speech and I hand over the proceedings to the President of KEA, Professor Harilal sir. Thank you, sir.
Professor M.A. Umman, Professor Surijit Majumdar, Professor Alex Thomas, Professor K.J. Joseph, Dr. Hemant, Santosh Burgess, General Secretary, Dr. Godwin, and friends, those who participate directly here, as well as those who have joined us online. In fact, I'm extremely happy to chair this session because right from the beginning, that is when the new committee took over the responsibility, we were planning to organize workshops on teaching of economics and curriculum. We were very ambitious. In fact, no, there was a lot of demand. KEA membership is very keen to have such workshops being organized by KEA. But in spite of our early efforts, it was not really happening. We had to postpone the meetings. And finally, it is happening, and in a very organized way. So we are very happy, and we are very happy about the kind of enthusiasm KEA membership had shown. Participation is very, very high, and probably slightly more than our expectations. That means we should take this course very seriously. We will do that. We will be organizing more workshops, and we will be coming out with a very clear program as far as curriculum reforms in economics in Kerala are concerned. Because we are encouraged by the kind of enthusiasm our economists in Kerala are showing in this. And I'm happy about chairing the session for another reason, because Professor M.A. Umman, right from the beginning, he was very keen that KEA should take up this course. And now, Professor Umman, our patron, our founding president, will be inaugurating this series of workshops. He will make the keynote presentation in the beginning itself. My job, in fact, is basically managing time, and that's not going to be very easy because we are going to have very, very interesting presentations today. Professor Surijit Majumdar, Alex, then Hemant. And in fact, no, these are going to be very interesting presentations. And of course, there will be discussion from the floor, not only from here, but from online participants also will have to be given opportunity to participate in the discussion. But we should have some discipline. So I'm suggesting that the participants, the distinguished panelists, will take around 15 to 20 minutes for their presentation. And then we will very efficiently use our time so that all the participants can contribute to the discussion. But let me tell you that this is not going to end with this particular workshop. We will be organizing workshops where our teachers from Kerala will be participating. Apart from that, from our discussions with scholars in India and abroad, they are all very keen about this discussion. This is such discussions are taking place in other countries also. So we will continue this discussion, and KEA will certainly play a very, very important role. And we are also happy that the College Higher Education Council also had taken the council will also be supporting us. Now, before I invite Professor M.A. Oman, I'll make just one or two very brief kind of observations about the challenge that we are facing. In my opinion, there are two sides to this challenge. One is the race between the changes in the economy and economics. That's one part of the challenge, because all of us know that economies are changing very fast. Economies at all levels, at all scales, local economies, provincial economies, national economies, and at the global level. Changes are coming so fast, and probably the pace of change had increased considerably. So for economists everywhere it's a challenge, because now you need to improve on your concepts, you need to improve on your theories, then only can you catch up with the changes. So the profession is facing a major challenge at the global level everywhere. Now, if that challenge is met, then the second challenge will come up. You improve your concepts, your theories, you can explain the changes in the economy better, but then these theories, new concepts, new tools, new skills will have to be transferred to the students, to the society at large. So dissemination is a major task. That's where the curriculum reorganization, pedagogy, textbooks, all those things come up. And these challenges are much more severe in a country like India, in the third world context. Now, there are so many other related things, but I will not take any more time at this stage, because as I told, we will have a lot of opportunity to discuss these things. Let us now invite Professor M.A. Oman. In fact, no, he was a pioneer teacher in Kerala, not only a researcher. So he has introduced many new courses. He was one of the key persons introducing courses in several of our universities. And of course, he has also worked on this theme. He has written about this theme of teaching of economics. So he is the right person to initiate our discussion, which will be continued in the course of the year. Professor M.A. Oman. Sir.
Dr. Adlal, friends, I'm really overwhelmed by the presence of students and my esteemed colleagues. I should be very brief, I know. I'm not known for my brevity. I used to. Therefore, I don't know whether what I'm going to say is relevant, because I'm not quite in the know of what's happening in Kerala, because I left the classroom long back. But I can tell you briefly, I would like Dr. Adlal to cut me short and very, very severely if I cross that time. When I became the chairman of the Dr. John Mathai Center, that was 1976. I thought that there should be some change in the traditional approach. So I thought to myself 3 questions. What should be the content? What should be the method of teaching? what should be the evaluation, technique of evaluation. I hope you can hear me.
Should be. Yeah, yeah, no problem.
So I started with the content. For that, I studied the syllabi of 26 universities in India at that time and wrote a paper. That is, even now I have carried a copy of that paper with me. That is the hidden curricula in the teaching of economics in Indian universities. And the secretary was mentioning about John Robinson. I quoted John Robinson in this book like this. It is true that we cannot in the time available teach everything that we could like. But why do we pick up for treatment just the selection of topics that is less likely to raise any questions of fundamental importance? That is the challenge. So, what should be the content? Apart from my major findings there, what was extremely neoclassical syllabus in all the universities except JNU at that time. Even at that time, JNU was, and Delhi also was little different from the rest. But in organizing a course specifically for John Mathai Center was a big challenge, I tell you. I had so many ideas in mind which I did not implement at that time fully. But we found several challenges at that time was what should be the core subject, what should be the selective subjects and all that. Introduced so many new subjects and made the teachers work on that. I'm not going into the details of that. That is not irrelevant. That is irrelevant now. But forest economics, social framework means how to calculate national income and how to put it into different accounts and all that. Like that, we had some new courses. But methodology of teaching, just lecturing that the lecturer knows all wisdom and finish off with that. We said we should not do that. We should have a dialogue with the students. So asking questions, sometimes the students will ask very, very embarrassing questions. Even you should be prepared to face that. So the teaching methodology was changed. Then evaluation was a big problem. We introduced a semester system in Kerala for the first time. So to find out that, to convince the university authorities about the importance of that, how we are going to evaluate. When I was a student, and I don't know how far it has changed, answer any 5 questions. 10 questions are given, you are answer any 5. That means the student can throw away half of the syllabus. So this was totally removed. But how to set the questions? The pattern of setting questions, that itself was a big problem. I'm not going into the details of that. But students are asked to present their ideas. Students are asked to go to the field. You collect data and come and present a paper. For that, for internal assessment, nearly 40% of the mark goes for internal assessment. Not the teacher can be very partial and, oh, this is a so-and-so's daughter, so she should be given a high mark and all that. So we had a big ledger purchased, and in that, the name of all the students are entered. Each student was given term paper, this much internal assessment. Nobody, no discretion. Everything on the basis of what is done. And we had about, throughout the course, 16 exercise books. That exercise books are given marks. And it is entered. Teachers are to do that. My teachers were very angry with me, but even then they cooperated fully. And there was also student evaluation. For the first time in India, student evaluation was, I believe, I don't know where it was. Students will evaluate. Teacher saying that, oh, you do not come prepared, as we, so many criticisms. I collected that, and the names of the students are also written there. Second round, we said that the names of the students should not be there. Like that, so much of experiments were done. I believe that these experiments paid dividends. I have written a paper some 6 years ago. The title of it is My Tryst with the Discipline of Economics, a retrospection. I think KA should get it indeed. It is so much how much internal struggles have to be undergone to straighten things up. I can quote from that to show that syllabus revision and teaching is not an easy thing. Teaching is a difficult job. It's not marinerical. That means Majumdar may not know. Before going to, when you have an headache, you go and take a pill. Similarly, half an hour before the class, you go, prepare, hold the notes, okay. Or read from books. That is not, you become the master of the subject. I will be introducing, I wanted to introduce this book of Alex Thomas, Macroeconomics and Introduction. I don't know whether anybody in this hall has seen this book. Unfortunately, this book was given to me by Alex. Long back, I thought of reading it only yesterday, but I could read only 18 pages, and my comments on the book will be very, very immature. But I will have something to say on that. So, later on, I wrote quite a few papers, and there were Pulin Naik made a counterattack on what I wrote. And then there were teachers supporting it and all that. That was much later. It was in 2012 when I was 80. Later on, I wrote on the epistemology of the discipline of economics. You can get in EPW, I wrote 2 papers, several other journals. And now, I don't want to go into the details because I don't know Hemant has prepared a very, from the appearance of this, from the the size of the paper and all, and the citations. But I have not read it, and so don't make any comment on that. One of the, I want to introduce you to this book. Whether you should follow this or not is your headache. I will not read. I am only introducing what I feel about the book. It is a brand new approach to macroeconomics. All of us think that whatever micro is sacrosanct. It is given, fundamentals. Even big people say economic fundamentals. What economic fundamentals are there? Economic, as Harlal said, the economy is changing fast. So, economics also will have to change. So many non-falsifiable statements are taught as science. What is science? If your discipline is to be a science, science is what science is because it is validated through logic and empirical evidence. There is paradigm shift. What you carry as excess baggage should be thrown away. And you should be able to respond. Your macro should be there. One of the criticisms that I made and tried to rectify in the Calicut University through a workshop that was organized. And one was that there is, I used to say, you should not go and before the students that there is no other meat in the kitchen. There are alternatives in the kitchen. Micro, macro, sacrosanctum. No. If we explore, there is infinite scope. There was an inveterate displeasure with marks in a given academic world. So my difficulty was to introduce Marx. For that I have found a way, I'm not, but to say this is very important. In 1968, I was asked to translate Das Kapital. I was among the team, big team. I was asked to translate into Malayalam the third chapter, which is very, very crucial. CC, commodities into commodities, barter system. CMC, commodity into money. Add that money, you buy commodities, money as a medium of exchange. MCM, from money, you use commodities and make more money out of that. MCM, so that Marx only said MCM. I translated it as Panam, Charakku, Panam, Pa Chapa. What sort of a stupid translation was that? I remembered later. So, and it is not the translation matter. Alex has brought this book. I only, because of short of time, I'm introducing. I want to introduce this book and Good Economics, another book to you. 3 books I am going to introduce to you. very, very briefly. Because he is there, because I have not read the whole book, my comments will be mature, I am sure. He defines economics as a science of wealth. On the face of it, Adam Smith tradition, classical tradition, he says he has taken it. He's not saying that it as a definition, but he uses that as the frame for alternative approaches. That is so he has a point in that. But I would rather say economics is the study of the economy. As he has rightly said, Kochi, Matangeri has got an economy. Telangana government has got an economy. So the concept of economy is the way in which people try to meet their needs. So you have to understand what is economics. Economics is the inquiry and study of the economy so that we find out the organizing principle in production, distribution, and the settlement. What are the principles in the settlement of claims? That is wages. So that type of approach would have been, because this book is so, I would say that there should be a small committee that should go into this and see whether that can be followed for BA courses. It can be, but I am not the person to recommend, because I am only an old teacher. I have no authority to recommend it. But the border studies may try to study this and critically study.
So Dr. Alex is there, so he'll.
So he may have something to say. Alex, I have not met him personally, but I am sure.
We are happy that we are lucky that he's here.
Yeah, he
Maybe
is
you'll have to
happy.
say something about the other two.
See, because I took the book, because in the program which Godwin sent to me, I suggested his name to him. I suggested that he should be brought down, because he has an alternate way of thinking, organizing. Don't accept anybody. Question. Questioning is what is important. But you can have one way of approach which he has developed. So understanding what is economics. I have written very critically about the teachers, about wherever I go. I have written in my autobiography, wherever I go, I get the Robinson definition, which is a definition of choice. In your paper, I just skipped and find the heading. Is economics the science of choice? What is the vocation? I mean, only I am throwing it for your discussion. The ontological vocation of a social science is to understand the place where you live and critically understand it and properly understand it. It's not understanding the phenomenal form of it. The phenomenal form is easy, water. All of us are familiar with water. But only a scientist will say 2 atoms of hydrogen and oxygen make water. You go beyond the phenomenal form. The price theory is, oh, you study price theory. What is behind supply? Who controls supply? Who manipulates price? We abstract from ownership question. How do and why do you abstract? And that is because the Western theoretical frame has imposed on you that price and need. Of course, all of us are in praise of Alfred Marshall's diagram, equilibrium and all that. I am only introduce, because I have so many things to say, but recommend that, I'm sure. I don't want to, I just mention about another book. This cannot be, this why not think? This is only throwing up challenges before you. I'm not competent to throw challenges before. But look, good economics for hard times. Who wrote it? Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo wrote it. How many times I read it? And that you cannot say. But several times. I wonder why, Alex, you have, you may have a reasoning. You have left out Carl Polanyi, the great transformation. Most of Amartya Sen's writings on economics. Probably it would have been, and also Yanis has written, what is his great, that Athenian man's name is very, I try to pronounce that. That you say it loudly so that that I have quoted him here. I read it also. So many books like that. Of course, again coming to this book, Alex has rightly said, you should be in your classroom, you should introduce several literature possible. Hard Times is a novel, Charles Dickens novel. Good economics for hard times. This book is not mentioned, it is not his fault, but I find that the modern economics is criticized here in this book. Very well criticized. But at the same time, how beautifully the criticism is there. So all the current topics of the world, they have examined. Good economics for hard times. Everywhere, every page I have written my comments against the authors, for the authors, and so on like that. You find the most finding that I wrote long back. Society needs more compassion, needs more care and grace to redesign its resource allocations and use. That's the lesson I learned from this book. Society needs more compassion, not the mini-max exercise. How can you introduce compassion into your syllabus? It is written by Nobel laureate, and that with good reason. Another fascinating book. I did not bring my copy of, because that is enough, another. After Piketty. 3 years after Piketty wrote, there is a chapter on his reply to about more than 15 authors who criticized it. That is there. There is also a paper in the Journal of Economic Perspective, which also I have read. See, can you introduce inequality as a subject? I throw up the challenge before you. Inequality as a subject. The subtitle of this book is The Agenda for Economics and Inequality. So why not? Because there you study, in your inquiry, social reality cannot be comprehended with economics alone. That is nonsense. When I said all these things, when I said that literature should be used for elaboration, I wrote a book. I'm not, although excuse me for using first person singular. Kerala 2-volume, Rethinking Kerala Economics. You might have seen that. There is so many, first part you find so many literary writers are brought for discussion. Poets have commented on that. Sachidanandan is well versed in Malayalam as well as English, a friend of mine. Excellent piece is there. Can you Kair by Tagadi? See that social system of land tenure system, including so many systems, you read very well. Or Randudanari, Odelin. So much of literature can be brought. When I introduced that, some of the people, what is this fellow doing? But I was very determined on that. And so I am sure I have crossed my time. I stop. I leave it to you, but I will intervene if it is required.
Thank you, Professor Umman. He introduced 3 books and brought very important challenges. We will have opportunity to discuss some of these things during the course of this workshop. But I think the experience, personal experience, as one of the pioneering economists, pioneering teacher of economics in Kerala, his experience, he has written about, and that piece will be very, very useful, because he has very briefly mentioned about the processes and challenges he had to encounter in Mathai Center and other places where he tried to introduce new courses, new approaches to evaluation, etc., and new approaches to teaching also. So those things will be very valuable. And when KEA bring out a document on curriculum reforms, certainly we'll be able to make use of Professor Umman's original paper. We will discuss with him and then try to use that in our document. Now, let me invite Professor Surajit Majumdar. In fact, Professor Surajit Majumdar had some other work in the morning, and I was requesting him to join as early as possible. But he joined right from the beginning. So, Professor Surajit Majumdar, you can take around 15 to 20 minutes. And we request that you should continue with KEA in our task of coming up with something concrete in the area of curriculum reforms. Not only Surajit Majumdar and other JNU faculty, they have all shown interest, and Professor Surajit will, I hope, help as a bridge between KEA and JNU faculty. Professor Majumdar.
Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Professor Umman, Professor Harilal, Professor Joseph, and my friend Santosh. I first wish to thank the Kerala Economic Association for this invitation to participate in this workshop and share some thoughts on the question of economics curricula. I, of course, cannot match Professor Umman's experience or wisdom. For that, I must apologize, but for whatever it's worth, let me share my 2 bits on what I think are the important challenges that have to be faced in framing any curriculum in economics with reference to a specific context in which we are doing that. So I start from the premise that economics is a contested discipline in which from fairly fundamental questions to more specific narrow questions, there are different ways of looking at. So from fundamental questions about how you conceptualize the economy that is being analyzed, what are its key distinguishing or defining features, what are the specific regularities that you think are important to investigate and examine. All of from these fundamental questions to more narrow specific questions, there is a lot of difference of opinion and perspective. However, there is nevertheless a dominant mainstream tradition within economics, in relation to which there are several others which we broadly categorize as heterodox. But heterodox perspectives are also not necessarily homogeneous in nature. So the Austrians also consider themselves heterodox in relation to the dominant neoclassical tradition. And the Marxists will also be in the same category, but the two are not likely to see eye to eye on many questions. So there is a broad spectrum of perspectives which define economics as a discipline, and including in terms of whether you conceive of the analysis of the economy as economics or whether you think of it in a political economy framework. Now, this particular character of the discipline, of its contested nature, and the fact that there are more dominant worldviews in economics whose dominance does not necessarily have to do or is not necessarily a reflection of their superiority in providing an understanding of the economic reality, but other factors, including the nature of the economy, which is being sought to be analyzed. That's a broad reality that always intrudes into and influences the question of formulation of any curriculum. Now, if this reality is recognized, that there are these differences, one possible way of approaching the question of formulation of a curriculum that follows from this reality is to think of a curriculum as something that is going to expose students who are studying economics to the diversity of perspectives, methods, and questions that characterize that discipline. So one approach is to think of a curriculum as something which exposes them to that diversity, and which has also a certain pedagogic significance insofar as the fact that you are exposed to these different ways of looking at the economy. And in a sense, the questions they pose to each other are also confronted. It helps also in developing a critical understanding, a critical perspective on the discipline, and allows students to move in the direction of developing their perspective on the discipline itself, as opposed to simply knowing what economists do. But the more normal form or result of this structure of contestation as well as dominance within the field of economics is to think of curriculums which are founded or built around a particular perspective or view. And normally the mainstream view is the one around which the structuring of curriculum in economics often gets shaped. So that's one way of looking, another way of looking at it. And those, because ultimately the contestation within the discipline also reflects itself in contestation or differing views on what is an appropriate curriculum in economics. Okay. So from the point of view of those who hold a particular or perspective, diversity of perspectives and methods within the discipline involves trade-offs, that you do less of good economics, you do good economics at a lower level, then because you have to allow space for other things within the program. Okay. So it might, that kind of an understanding leads to a more exclusionary kind of approach to the formulation of curriculum, where you want to do what you think is good economics to the maximum possible extent. So there is this kind of a trade-off. Okay. There is a second kind of a trade-off that often is faced, which flows from this whole idea that you want to give students choice. I would call it a trade-off between choice and choice. So there are two ways of looking at the question of choice in a curriculum, which is, one is you allow students choice about what are the courses they wish to do. That's one way of looking at the question of choice. But the other way is to look at the question of choice is to offer them a choice in terms of the ideas, which then allows them to a better foundation or basis to make choices about particular courses they wish to take. But of course, the more you want to give them choice in terms of ideas, then the larger has to be what is the core or compulsory component in any curriculum. And therefore, less becomes the space available for giving them choices in terms of specific papers or courses they may wish to do. So there is a trade-off here, which often also has to be confronted when you're discussing any question of a curriculum. These trade-offs become all the more severe in our kind of context because the standard economics or economic theory that we that penetrate into our curricula are, of course, these are not, of course, emanating or emerging out of our own context. So and given our status as a third world economy developing country, there are components that our economics curriculum programs must have, which may not be required to be done specifically in an advanced country context. So let's say in the United States and an economics department, in an economics curriculum, there probably is not likely to be too many courses on the US economy, because a lot of what the economics that they're in any case doing is in any case directly relevant to that particular context. We confront different sets of economic problems, which we have to introduce our students to. So it's not simply sufficient to do a course in macro, say, and understand, say, the macroeconomics of the Indian economy. A standard macroeconomics course and understand all the issues that are confronting an economy like Indians. So we have our development, Indian economy, etc., components within the curriculum. We are often required to have that, which means that it's squeezing the space for other things within that particular curriculum. So the trade-offs in many sense become particularly acute when formulating a curriculum in our context. A second challenge, a second broad area of challenge that one faces when formulating a curriculum is, of course, the curriculum has to be delivered by a faculty, okay, a collective group of people who themselves may not necessarily have exactly the same perspectives on economics, may not have the same kind of interests in terms of what their own areas of interest are. So there is a diversity that is possible within the faculty. And there is also differences in the degree of diversity that you might actually have in a faculty which is required to deliver a program. So what at an abstract level is considered an ideal program, and the question of actually delivering it will confront this question of that the actual delivery and its quality, of course, depends on the extent to which the faculty collectively, at least, if not individually, at least collectively, owns up to that particular program that it's required to, or curriculum it is required to deliver. So, and in our context, particularly in undergraduate education, we are likely to face, and postgraduate education also in several universities, face the additional problem that the number of faculty who are required to deliver a particular program are extremely limited. So I think one of the questions that should also be, I think, part of this deliberation is a discussion about what is the kind of appropriate faculty strength one needs and what kind of areas that must be covered within a faculty if a appropriate curriculum is to be delivered. That should, I think, also be part of the discussion on the curriculum. A third aspect in formulating a curriculum is, of course, the question of the students and their own priorities. The students who are going to come and study economics, not all of them, the large majority of them are not going to become economists. And no one is going to become an economist by doing an undergraduate program in any case. Okay. So, and they, of course, they are living in a certain economic reality. And within that economic reality, they have those realities shape perceptions about what are their career options, what they might like to do, and what they think is the training that is required in order to access the careers that they aspire for. And there is going to be some diversity within that also, but there is a certain pattern also that you tend to find given the larger economic context, the nature of the job market, what kind of things students think are good for the point of view of their employment prospects or for their further studies. So now this is also, I believe, something that has to be taken into account in formulating a curriculum, because ultimately, if good students are not going to be attracted into and interested in a particular curriculum, then however good the curriculum may be in terms of its outcomes, it doesn't produce very much. Okay, which is not to say that curriculums have to be shaped entirely by what students' interest is, but the interest has to be taken into account because they must become part of the process. They might, at the end of that process, change their perceptions, change their understanding, change their career choices, whatever it is. But in order to attract them and trick this into the thing, and let's face it, several students will not necessarily, of course, as I said, most will not become economists, will be thinking in terms of certain careers. And however good a program, it does not necessarily mean that it entirely changes their outlook or worldview. So there are various kind of requirements of students that have to be also catered to by any economics program. So in my view, the actual formulation of any curriculum should always be tailored to a specific context, should be tailored to the interests and things of the faculty which is to deliver that program. But if these different requirements are to be met, okay, if these different kind of challenges have to be addressed, I would, in my view, any curriculum in economics should basically be in different ways. It can be done in different ways with different kinds of combinations of courses that can be decided by those who are going to be actually delivering it. But three broad areas should, I think, be covered in any economics program, which can address these different challenges and different requirements together. So the balance between these three components is, I think, the real challenge in formulating an economics curriculum. So one part, of course, is dealing with the theoretical aspects in economic theory. And the diversity in that theory is something that must be incorporated into an economics curriculum in one form or the other. The second is history. a component within the program that familiarize student with the historical basis on which abstraction theory has been built, the experiences to which it has been, from which have been sought to be analyzed in economics, the historical backdrop, and also allow them, with reference to that history, to examine to what extent why particular theories choose particular aspects of history to build on, do not necessarily emphasize other aspects. What is the basis on which those choices are made and their implications, and evaluate different theories with reference to that history. Allowing students the opportunity to do that requires at least some components of the economic history of the world economy, in a sense, since the advent of capitalism, at least the period within which what modern economic ideas emerged. And third is, of course, component on quantitative techniques. Quantitative techniques which allow students to, I mean, it's a discipline which does deal with quantities. So there is a general rationale for learning quantitative skills, but at the same time, only when it is placed along with the other components and done appropriately is it possible for students to understand what the use of these techniques and methods means, where it is appropriate, where it is not appropriate, what is appropriate to a particular question, what is not. The idea, of course, in having all these three components is that these three components between themselves, in which the people delivering these different components in different ways in different courses may not necessarily have the same kind of view, but between them, they offer the students enough of foundation on which they can then build to develop their own perspectives and thoughts and learn to use what they have acquired in the course of a program more effectively and creatively, at least setting them on that particular path, rather than approaching the question of curriculum as something which is just going to give students a box of tools which they learn to apply without any understanding of where those tools have come from, their underlying premises, and without being able to analyze the question of where those tools fail, where those other tools have to be sought for. So that diversity, I believe, is something that, because I think when there are different perspectives on the discipline, the only possible consensus people can agree on that the programs must reflect that diversity. The curriculum must reflect that diversity. That's the only consensus that is possible. It is not possible to have a consensus where a particular perspective is going to be the only one which is going to shape the formulation of a curriculum. So I think starting from the idea of that the diversity of the discipline is something that students have to be exposed to, not in a complete sense, but a sense of that diversity and a foundation to understand and learn more if they wish to. And to achieve that, I think all three components, history, theory, as well as quantitative methods, must all be incorporated into an economics curriculum in suitable balance with each other. And if then delivered correctly, even from particular considerations of jobs, etc., and employment that students are interested in, they might find such economics programs worthwhile. So this is my broad kind of suggestion or offering for deliberations. I am not suggesting any specific curriculum because I think that is something, I don't think that this broad perspective, when it is executed, necessarily has to take only one specific set of form in the terms of the curriculum. Diversity is possible even within different institutions and universities. And I think diversity, even in that sense, is something that should be welcome And that diversity will also help teachers in different places mold this broad perspective according to their own conditions, their own requirements, and their own interests, which in the ultimate analysis will certainly have a positive effect on the outcome. So with that, let me conclude. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Surjit. In fact, no, it was a very clear presentation. And the major idea has come out very well. The focus on diversity, history, and quantitative methods. But he was repeatedly emphasizing diversity, which should be, I think, generally acceptable to most of us. But his presentation will also raise some confusion, some questions regarding the kind of curriculum reform that is being attempted in the country and in the state. Professor Surajit particularly was mentioning about the faculty strength of our institutions. In a place where undergraduate courses are offered. Now, how many faculty members are there in a college? So that limitation is very, very important. And he was also emphasizing about the preference of students, their choice. These two considerations are very important. But if you are having a kind of harmonized, uniform kind of syllabus and approach across colleges, across universities, you will not be able to really take care of the choice of students and specialization of faculty, etc. Maybe in a college, they have around 6 faculty members. And these 6 faculty members are specialized in certain areas, apart from the general things. And if the college is focusing on certain aspects of the economics, then it will have an advantage because of the specialization of the faculty. But if you are thinking about the same program, same curriculum for all colleges, all universities, then diversity cannot be taken care of. So Surajit's presentation, in fact, I emphasize these two things, the choice of students and diversity composition of faculty. I think these two aspects will have to be taken care of by those who plan for curriculum reforms. From the impression that I get, there is a tendency towards more uniform kind of patterns, which will not be very useful. Because now economics itself, it's becoming very, very diversified. For example, taxation studies, that area alone, you can have programs at the undergraduate level itself. And then so many other areas within economics you can find out. And if you are having an economics program taught in every college in the same way, in every university, that's not the right kind of approach for development. That's not the right kind of approach for organic growth. Yeah, these are kind of general observations. In fact, now that way, Professor Rajit has provoked us by raising some of these issues. We will continue this discussion. Now, are you busy with some work?
No, I'm always busy.
So you want to come now and then?
I'm going to make busy here now. Don't worry.
So
Let us finish with others.
yeah, okay, that's what I meant. So, Dr. Alex, can you make your presentation now?
Yeah, I'll just share my screen. Is it visible? Are my slides visible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, it's a great privilege to be here. Although I've given several talks online and offline in many colleges, I think this is the first time an economics association has taken up this kind of an initiative to talk about economics education. And I think, as it was mentioned by Professor Harilal, I think it would be very helpful if it's an ongoing one. And even after the 4-year kind of 4-year undergraduate thing is over, I feel that we should go on with it. But I'm also very delighted for Professor M.A. Ummen for inviting me, and Dr. Godwin for all the support leading to this workshop. And I just want to start off with some literature, but I'm also happy that Professor Majumdar spoke before me, because he has already set the context in many ways. Just to begin that, I mean, in 1986, Sukamoy Chakravarti wrote about the teaching of economics in India in EPW. Professor M.A. Ummen put together an edited volume, which we had looked up when we were trying to discuss these issues in 2016 and thereabouts, which in Azim Premji University, some of us, and we invited some other people to come together and to deliberate this. And some of the articles that I've written for teachers and other people elsewhere. So there is very little literature which systematically has studied it. I think that, and there is a lot more that can be done. I want to begin by talking about aspirations. Professor Majumdar did talk about some of it. And I think that it's important that we keep in mind our collective aspirations while trying to talk about any kind of curriculum forming. Students certainly are looking for employment, but it's not, and employment may not only be in higher education or in teaching of economics, but it can be in other arenas as well. There's also some kind of intellectual satisfaction that students look for, and also to learn critical thinking. But when it comes to universities and colleges, often people are interested in improving rankings. Now, I mean, so there, and the rankings are based on several kind of parameters, not all of which I think match with the aspirations that students have or teachers have. Now, universities and colleges are also interested in increasing publications, and that's also connected to rankings and also to funding. And universities and colleges, especially of the private variety, are interested in increasing the number of students. So these are, I mean, at least between students and universities, these different aspirations are there. Now, teachers, as teachers, I think the first aspiration is really to complete our syllabus, because very often in most places, I think the syllabus is not set by us, the teachers who are teaching the course. So there is, and very often there is too much information that goes into these syllabi. I've noticed that it's very, very difficult to transact them meaningfully for both a teacher and a student. Teachers also, we want intellectual satisfaction, and we also want, part of it is also we want to spend time doing research. Now, what is the current state of economics education? The predominant theory, as Professor Majumdar also mentioned, that we should not be going about it this way, but unfortunately, across the globe, the predominant theory that is being transacted in economics education is that of marginalist or neoclassical economics. And when it comes to empirical methods, it is particular kinds of econometrics that are being taught. And when it comes to pedagogy, mainstream textbooks are being used, and we still use exams. Professor M.A. Ummen had spoken about pedagogy a little bit in his remarks, and I'm going to talk a little more about it in this presentation. Now, and I already mentioned this urge that all universities seem to have for university rankings. We also have journal rankings, so we want to publish in all that. And I think the implication, the unfortunate implication of all this is we have often an unhealthy kind of workload. As teachers, we often have to do a lot of documentation. We are expected to serve in committees. So we also have to talk some way about the workloads that these structures of current education creates. And then I want to talk a little bit about fashions in economics. Now, I think that very often when we go behind what is new or novel, we often forget that they might only last for maybe 3 years or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. And I think the aim of education should be much more fundamental than that, much more long-term than that, and it cannot be reduced to whatever is popular today. So for instance, this is just, I've just listed some of it, and apologies to some of you if you have worked in this. But all that I'm trying to say here is that At one point in time, general equilibrium theory was fashionable. All PhDs were devoted to that. There was a point in time where everybody wanted to work on the economics of poverty, game theory, behavioral economics. And today, if you look at most of the PhDs that come out generally across the world, it is what might be called development microeconomics, or I should rather say development microeconometrics. And so this, I mean, it has followed several kinds of fashions, and this is with any kind of discipline. And when we look at the methods or the more quantitative approaches to it, we have also seen multiple kinds. There was a point in time linear programming was famous. Input output, we don't hear about input output models anymore. Time series econometrics was extremely popular at a particular period of time. Today, it seems to be a particular variety of econometrics and also randomized control trials that are popular. Now, I think when we are forming a curriculum, it is important that we do not just go with what is fashionable today. It is also important that we try to bring in pluralism or diversity, the word that Professor Majumdar used, not just in theory, but also in empirical methods. So I'm certainly advocating for pluralism, and I'm using the word pluralism, which is the same as diversity. When it comes to the context of theory, there exist multiple schools of thought and of a contending nature. So marginalist economics, which is what is the orthodoxy, but you have varieties. It can be post-Keynesian economics, Marxian political economy, Austrian economics. And I think that it is helpful to at least introduce students to at least two of them. Again, it is difficult to introduce them to everything, but certainly in some courses, this can be done. And when it comes to empirics, I would say that at the very least, the student has to be exposed to more than two ways of doing economics. Now, this could be using econometrics, it could be ethnographic, more fieldwork-based methods. It could be a textual analysis where we are reading classics and trying to understand what people were trying to argue. It could also be more historical in nature. So there are multiple ways to look at a particular question. Unfortunately, today we are told that for a particular project or a particular article to be published, if you do not have econometrics, it does not constitute research. And now, this is a very unfortunate turn of events where we have narrowed human possibilities, we have narrowed human thinking to believe that only I can be convinced only if I see some kind of econometric or statistical table in the paper. But we can be convinced by so many other ways of argumentation and reasoning. And I think that in our economics education, we should have a pluralism when it comes to empirics as well. And I just want to make a note here that because Professor Umman already mentioned Marx, in my exam when I teach macroeconomics, I ask students this question. The question is, why is Marx not taught in mainstream macroeconomics? It is a very strange thing for me because Marx has written so much about accumulation, about crisis, about growth, but still mainstream macroeconomics textbooks do not really engage with Marx's ideas. Now, how do we understand scientific progress? And a little bit of this is connected to how we want to frame our curriculum. And often people take this very linear view. So, Marx is an advance over Smith and Ricardo. Let's say Samuelson solo is better than Keynes. Mankiw is better than all of them. So all that I need to do today is just to pick up the book of Mankiw and not read anyone before. Because whatever is good previously has been contained in Mankiw and whatever is bad. Of course, this forgets the idea that there are contending paradigms and contending schools of thought, and we cannot think of this kind of a linear view of scientific progress. Now, if I want to do an alternative for Indian economic thought, one might think that it is just enough to read Amartya Sen and not read any of the thinkers prior to Amartya Sen who has contributed to thinking about Indian economics. And it is true that, as Professor Majumdar also mentioned, there is a trade-off, but I believe that to some extent it is possible to provide a flavor of this kind of different kind of views with some amount of history of economic thought. So what I want to emphasize is that ideas do not grow linearly. We see ups and downs. It is often non-linear. It also depends on what kind of ideas. Sometimes ideas are forgotten. Sometimes, depending on who is in power, ideas are expelled, etc. But we also, there is, and keeping in mind the politics of academia, what is fashionable. Sometimes it is impossible to teach Marx in a curriculum. In some places, maybe Hayek is impossible to teach. But there should literally be more freedom in what kind of ideas can be taught. But also here, I think it's useful for us to reflect a little bit on the sociology of science and scientists, I would say, and what kind of ideas are promoted by certain kinds of groups or people. So this is just one instance actually that I formulated. How do we think of an economics curriculum which has pluralism? And as Professor Majumdar earlier mentioned, this is just one such approach, and there can be multiple approaches that are possible. So it is possible to think of teaching microeconomics. I'm using classical political economy because that is where I do my research. It can be post-Keynesian economics, it can be Austrian economics, it can be Marxian political economy. Any approach is possible, where you can think of questions of prices, questions of wages from both schools of thought and within microeconomics. Similarly, it is possible within macroeconomics. In fact, in the textbook that I've written, I have adopted this kind of a pluralist approach to look at macroeconomics. I think that it's important when it comes to methods or empirical sort of how do you do economics to introduce students to textual analysis, which comes from history of economic thought. It's important that students learn econometrics, but also math for economists. And I would also add especially economic history and Indian economy. And I've put ethnography here because it's very difficult to meaningfully transact Indian economy, just by looking at aggregate numbers. I think that there's a lot of fieldwork, meaningful fieldwork that has been done, and we should be able to introduce some of it in our Indian economy teaching. It cannot be only at a macro level. We want to go a little bit more and understand local and specific contexts a bit more. And here we might want to take up what economic anthropologists are doing or other anthropologists are doing with respect to the Indian society. Now, we can have advanced courses which are specifically neoclassical or marginalist. If students feel that they want to go to a more mainstream place and learn this, or this is more useful for their job, these advanced courses can be tailored. You can have advanced courses in classical and Marxian, micro and macro or political economy. We can have advanced courses in econometrics and mathematics too. I also think it might be useful to have a course or at least elements of a course on politics, philosophy, and ethics, because they do underlie many of the things that we want to do. This is something that I've mentioned before in some other contexts. I've not personally tried to teach a course like this, but I think it also connects to what Professor Umen was saying earlier about being compassionate and caring. There are many things in the society that cannot be adequately quantified. And this refers to what Adam Smith would call moral sentiments. It could be sympathy, care, respect. And many of these ideas or aspects can be found in the literature. When I'm talking about literature, I'm talking about fiction, where people have written about the Indian society, about Kerala society and elsewhere, and extracts from that, and reading that can make us a little more, I feel, emotional and connected to actually what's happening around. Just like we have maths for economists, I think that it's, I would say, as important to have literature for economists. What I've tried to do a little bit of this is in my macroeconomics textbook, where I've integrated some of the works by Sarah Joseph, Hansda Sovendra Shekhar, Srilal Shukla, some of Indian thinkers who have written about economic issues, not directly, but indirectly in their writing. It is especially important today that we have courses that engage with the questions of gender, caste, and ecology, and they can be approached from a marginalist or a neoclassical framework with econometrics. It can be approached from a political economy, classical or Marxian political economy with econometrics. So all this is possible. But I think that it's important that at least in the state of Kerala, that we introduce students to Kerala economy. And I would say, depending on which region you are in, go a little more deeper and expose students to the local economy. This can be by some kind of case studies, newspaper articles, some kind of small field work that the students can do. I think that this means that we are not completely disconnected from our immediate surroundings. I'll talk a little bit about pedagogy now. And I think that the aims of pedagogy are really to be creative, critical, and constructive. And I feel that this is important in any kind of job. It's not just only for teaching, it is for any kind of job that we get into. And here I want to talk a little bit about, there are different kinds of learners. Now, some learners are text-based, some learners are more audio, lecture-based, some are visual, some are more experience-based. So what this means is our material as well as our assessments have to meet different kinds of learners. So everything cannot be only exams, or it cannot only have presentations, or it cannot only be fieldwork. We need to have some meaningful combination of these. And similarly, this goes for assessments as well. We need to have some meaningful combination of assessments which are aligned with the kind of learners that we have in our classroom. And if that is the case, when we plan our content and pedagogy, we need to have both students and teachers in the classroom to be able to figure out what is actually possible. Sometimes 50 pages of text might be very difficult for a student who is also doing some other work at home. Or maybe 20 pages of a dense text is enough for maybe 3 days of reading. So we need to have some way in which we can deliberate about what is appropriate for the kind of students that we have. And this also means that we cannot really standardize everything, because depending on which locality we are in, which kind of college we are in, we might have to make changes. So one way is perhaps that 50% is decided, which is standardized, 50% is left to some of the individual colleges, or 25%, but some way of introducing autonomy without completely rejecting standardization. Because the choice of text and the choice of assessments, I think, have to be based on the learners that we have and what kind of socioeconomic constraints that people are coming from. And I just want to mention 2 books here. Freire's book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, I think is a difficult read, but I would certainly recommend all of you to read this book by Bell Hooks, which is about education, which is about pedagogy, and it's inspired by the work of Freire, and it's extremely accessibly written, which at least helps us think about how we want to frame our curriculum, how we want to think about pedagogy. I want to talk about textbooks a little bit, and I've just mentioned the price of the book here because I think that, 500 rupees is also quite on the higher side, but it's probably some on the lower side compared to many other competing books. And I want to mention this, that our textbooks is a main way in which we transact our content, but it's important to keep in mind that all textbooks have a standpoint. And as teachers, we need to try and understand what that standpoint is. Sometimes it is implicit or sometimes it's explicit. Some textbooks promote monism, that there is only one way of thinking about macroeconomics. There's only one way of thinking about microeconomics. There's only one kind of econometrics or one kind of development economics. But as we have seen, this is not really the reality. The reality is one of pluralism or diversity. So we need to be careful about what these textbooks might be promoting. The textbooks might be orthodox, that is, they take that neoclassical economics or marginalist economics is the economics, everything else is nonsense. So, and there are textbooks which also look at multiple schools of thought. So you want to figure out what way to combine, let's say, Mankiw's textbook with a heterodox textbook. And I think this is why critical pedagogy becomes important. And I've listed some of these things in my book, where what I try to do is, this is not to say that everything that is there in my textbook is correct, but it is really to invite readers to engage with them and ask certain kind of questions. Today, economics has sort of been reduced to a problem setting kind of approach. Sorry, problem solving one. We give certain questions to students, they have to solve them. But it really depends on how the question is framed, and are we teaching our students to set, or from the reality around us, how do you construct a solvable or a tractable problem? And I think that we also, need to introduce students to some of the data that is published by newspapers or by RBI and other things. So some of this I've tried to do in my book, and I'm grateful to Professor M.A. Uman for talking about my book before. Now to conclude, in terms of content, I think that we need to have theoretical pluralism. But I want to mention something here, and when I was introduced, the core textbook was mentioned. I want to highlight here that the core textbooks takes a different kind of standpoint on pluralism than what I do in my textbook. The approach of core is what I call pluralism by synthesis. So core tries to synthesize the work of Hayek, the work of Keynes, the work of Marx. So it's a mix. It's some kind of a mixture of all these different kind of ideas, which I'm not very comfortable with, because first, we don't know whether they can actually be synthesized. For instance, Keynes and Hayek, or Keynes and Marx, or Nash, it's very difficult to synthesize them, but core has done it. So I have certain reservations about this ability to synthesize, certainly for an introductory audience. The approach that I favor, and Professor Majumdar also sort of mentioned it, is pluralism by antithesis, or where you talk about contending perspectives. Once we teach students about contending perspectives, it's their freedom, it's anybody's freedom to synthesize them. So the first approach cannot be pluralism by synthesis, I believe. It has to be preceded by pluralism by antithesis. Very often we think of theories or with respect to their political positions.
Alex, can you please conclude, because
Yes, I'll just take 2 more minutes, 1 minute actually. Yeah, so theories and political positions. Orthodox theory does not always imply zero government intervention. I think that this is very important to keep in mind. It's not that only heterodox positions say that we need to have more government intervention. And I just want to mention 2 examples. Famous economists, Nobel Prize winners, Amartya Sen and Joseph Stiglitz, both of them work within marginalist or neoclassical foundations, but both of them argue for more government intervention. It is important to have empirical pluralism, as I mentioned before, and even in pedagogy, because we have different kind of learners and different socioeconomic situations, we need to have pluralism. So thank you. I'll stop here.
thank you, Dr. Alex. In fact, no, a consensus is certainly emerging. And in fact, most of us will agree with both of you, Professor Surijit and Dr. Alex, regarding pluralism, diversity. And the curriculum reforms in Kerala should focus on that. And we should not go back to monism. That much is very, very clear. But when it comes to implementation, there will be a lot of problems coming up. I mentioned some problems in the context of Professor Surijit's presentation. That's about the problems related to homogenization. That is it's going to be a problem. And from Dr. Alex's presentation also, when I was thinking in terms of practical implementation things, I was again thinking of the difficulties that will be caused by homogenization. I think we cannot have uniform, common curriculum for all the colleges and universities. There should be diversity, and that may be the only way we can take care of some of the issues that these 2 presentations made. Of course, Professor M. also had hinted about this. Now, let me invite Professor Joseph, and I think he will help us by reducing the time of his presentation, because he will have to bother about the other things, lunch time and other things.
So don't be very optimistic about it. And economists have never been able to keep their word in our country, you know that, Where to start? Yeah, I think this usual style is to go by the chair of the session, my dear friend and president of Kerala Economic Association, Professor Harilal. and more importantly, the spiritual leader of Kerala Economic Association and our dear patron and my distinguished professor of Gulati Institute of Finance and Taxation and so on, Professor M. A. Uman. The two what I call workhorses of double engine. I mean, I'm not into that double engine language. Please, no, well, right. Yeah. I think I have a lot of suspicion about my good friend now. Okay, of Kerala Economic Association, and most importantly, the chief guest of Gulati Institute of Finance of Taxation today, those who have come online and offline, and my dear students, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, a very warm welcome to Gulati Institute of Finance and Taxation. In essence, I think that I am here today speaking on account of the magnanimity of some others. Normally, academicians speak after reflective writing. That's what I normally do. I think this is the only topic in which I am asked to speak on something which I have not done anything, because I feel actually a little bit ashamed. I was actually taking a seat there and they told me to sit here. I didn't know the danger of the humility which I am going to be put before when asked to speak after people who have worked on the topic to talk. They asked me to discuss, in fact, not speak. It's not your problem. പിന്നെ ഞാൻ കരുതി ഈ സർക്കസിലൊക്കെ നമുക്കറിയാലോ ഒരാളുടെ റോൾ ഉണ്ടല്ലോ. And you are also getting tired. So, that is the reason. ഞാൻ ചിലപ്പോൾ മലയാളത്തിലേക്ക് പോയി വലിയ മലയാളം അറിയാമായിട്ടൊന്നും അല്ല കേട്ടാ. നമുക്ക് വർത്താനം പറയാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്. What I liked of the day today is, I liked everything that went so far. I think the manner in which my dear friend, which I have a lot of appreciation because we were opposite rooms for many years. And economy versus economics, the challenge, the new tools, theories, pedagogy, the content, the context, the outcome, etc., which have been dealt with. ഒരു കാര്യം പറയാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയാണ്. ഈ ചലഞ്ച് എന്ന സാധനം നിങ്ങൾ അങ്ങോട്ട് വാദ്യന്മാരായപ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് ഉണ്ടായ സാധനമൊന്നുമല്ല. അങ്ങനെ ധാരണയുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പം പണ്ടൊക്കെ ഭയങ്കരമായിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പം ഞങ്ങൾ മാഷന്മാരായപ്പോഴത്തേക്കാണ് ഈ പ്രശ്നമൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായത്. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇവിടെ എല്ലാം ഭയങ്കര ആന മറിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. നോ, ഞാൻ വലിയൊരു കക്ഷിയാണ്. ഞാൻ കേരളത്തിലെ ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് പഠിച്ചത് കേരളത്തിലെ ഏറ്റവും നല്ല കോളേജിൽ തന്നെയാണ്, സെയിന്റ് ബെർക്ക്മാൻസ് കോളേജ്. എന്നെ പഠിപ്പിച്ച ആള്, ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് പഠിപ്പിച്ച ആള് ഒട്ടും മോശക്കാരനല്ലായിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ ആളുടെ പേര് പറയുന്നില്ല. ആദ്യത്തെ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ എന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞ സെന്റൻസ് ഞാൻ കോഡ്സിയാനിസ്റ്റ് ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് എനിക്ക് ബൈഹാർട്ട് ആട്ടോ. ഞാൻ ഫസ്റ്റ് റാങ്ക് ഹോൾഡറും അതുകൊണ്ട് വലിയ ഗുണമൊന്നും ഉണ്ടായിട്ടില്ല. അപ്പോ ours is a privately controlled economy. The decisions are taken by etc. അത് പറഞ്ഞ സാധാരണക്കാരനായ ഒരു അധ്യാപകനല്ല, ഏറ്റവും നല്ല അധ്യാപകൻ അല്ല. എനിക്ക് സമയം കുറവേണ്ട. എന്താണ് റോബർട്ട് ഡോർഫ്മാൻ അമേരിക്കൻ കോണ്ടെക്സ്റ്റിൽ എഴുതിയ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്കിന്റെ അതേ ഓപ്പണിംഗ് സെന്റൻസ് ആണ് കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്നുകൊണ്ട് നെടുകായകനായ നമ്മുടെ അധ്യാപകനെ പഠിപ്പിച്ചത്. എനിക്ക് അതിന്റെ ഒന്നും മനസ്സിലായില്ല കേട്ടോ. എനിക്ക് അത് പ്രശ്നമൊന്നും എനിക്കൊന്നും മനസ്സിലായില്ല. നോക്കില്ല, നമ്മളൊക്കെ അന്നേ പ്രശ്നം മനസ്സിലാക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ട് that is economics is എന്നാ ഞാൻ കരുതിയിരുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഈ ചലഞ്ച് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇന്ന് ഉണ്ടായതല്ല. ഇതിന് വലിയ എനിക്ക് അറിയില്ല കേട്ടോ. എന്റെ അനുഭവത്തിന് പറയാൻ ഇന്നുണ്ടായതല്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഈ പ്രശ്നം എല്ലാം കൂടെ ഇന്നത്തെ ഒരു മീറ്റിംഗിൽ അങ്ങോട്ട് സോൾവ് ചെയ്യാന്നുള്ള ധാരണയൊന്നും ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് അസ്ഥാനത്താണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ ഇന്ന് സൊല്യൂഷനായിട്ട് എനിക്കറിയില്ലോ. ടോക്കിംഗ് ദാറ്റ് വാട്ട് ഐ എം ഗോയിങ് ടു സേ അനദർ 10 minutes. I have already taken 5 minutes. Okay, right. Already 5 minutes കഴിഞ്ഞു. Okay, സമയം പോകുന്നു. ഞാൻ ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഞാൻ പറയാൻ പോകുന്നത്, I'm only going to do a little bit of appreciation and why I got interested in this problem. ഞാൻ ഒന്നും എഴുതിയിട്ടില്ല, ഉണ്ടാ പറഞ്ഞത്. ഒന്ന് ആദ്യമായിട്ട് അപ്രീസിയേഷൻ റൈറ്റ് അവേ ഗോസ് ടു പ്രൊഫസർ SB കോളേജിൽ നിന്ന് അവിടെ ഫോറസ്റ്റ് ഇക്കണോമിക്സ്, ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയൽ ഇക്കണോമിക്സ്, അഗ്രികൾച്ചർ ഇക്കണോമിക്സ്, ട്രാൻസ്പോർട്ട് ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് എന്നൊക്കെയുള്ള സാധനം ഉണ്ടെന്നും പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് അദ്ദേഹത്തെ തപ്പി ഞാൻ അവിടെ പോയതാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം അപ്പൊ വിട്ടുകളഞ്ഞു. എങ്ങോട്ടാ? ബോട്സ്വാനയ്ക്ക്. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഞാൻ ഏലി ചെല്ലുമ്പോഴുണ്ട് അദ്ദേഹം എന്റെ മുന്നിൽ അവിടെ ഉണ്ട്. അദ്ദേഹം എന്റെ ഗുരു പറഞ്ഞു, പുള്ളി പണ്ട് 69 അവിടെ ഉണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഇടുക്കിക്ക് പോയാലും തോക്കടിക്കാരിയൊക്കെ അന്ന് പുള്ളിയുടെ എന്റെ ഗുരുവായിരുന്നു പുള്ളിയുടെ. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് പിന്നെ ഞങ്ങൾ കണ്ടുകൂടിയത് ഇവിടെയാണ്. അത് അന്ന് ഞാൻ മത്തായി സെന്ററിൽ പോയത് കൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്നത്. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എനിക്ക് വിമല കോളേജിലേക്ക് ജോലി ഓഫർ കിട്ടിയതാണ്. ഓഫറല്ല, എന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞ് ഞാൻ പോസ്റ്റ് അഡ്വൈസ് ചെയ്യാം, എനിക്ക് റിസൾട്ട് കിട്ടിയപ്പോഴത്തേക്ക്. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എനിക്ക് സെന്റ് തോമസ് കോളേജ് ജോലി ഓഫർ കിട്ടി. അവിടെ നല്ല മാഷായനെയും നന്നായിട്ട് നിങ്ങളെപ്പോലെയൊക്കെ ഇരിക്കേണ്ട ആളാണ്. വെറുതെ ഇങ്ങനെ എന്ത് സാഹചര്യം ഉണ്ടായത്, ഉമ്മ സാറായതിന് ഉത്തരവാദി എന്നുള്ള മനസ്സിലാക്കാനുള്ള ക്രെഡിറ്റ് ഗോസ് ടു ഉമ്മാസ്. രണ്ടാമത്തെ കാര്യം, എനിക്ക് ചെറിയൊരു അസൂയുണ്ട്, ചെറിയ കാര്യമായ അസൂയുണ്ട്. സ്വഭാവം നമുക്കല്ല, നിങ്ങൾക്കൊന്നും എനിക്കുള്ള സ്വഭാവത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമാണ്. ഞാനും പണ്ട് KEA പ്രസിഡന്റൊക്കെ ആയിരുന്ന ആളാണേ, ഒന്നും നടന്നില്ല. അപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയാത്ത കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഇവർ ചെയ്യുന്ന കാണുമ്പോൾ ചെറിയൊരു ഇതുണ്ട്. അപ്പം അതിന് നിങ്ങളെ ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് അപ്രീഷിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാണ്. രണ്ടാമത്തെ. മൂന്നാമത്തത്, എനിക്ക് സത്യം പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളോട് ഇരിക്കേണ്ട, നമ്മളൊരു കൂട്ടർ ഇവര് വേറൊരു കൂട്ടർ. സത്യം പറഞ്ഞാൽ എനിക്ക് നിങ്ങളോടാണ് ശരിക്കും. പണി മേടിക്കാൻ വന്നേക്കാണല്ലോ. ഇവിടെ നല്ല അവിടെ ജിങ്കാന്റെ പുസ്തകം പഠിപ്പിച്ച് ശമ്പളം മേടിച്ച് ജീവിക്കേണ്ട നിങ്ങള് വെറുതെ ആരും പൈസ കൊടുക്കാതെ കൊണ്ട് ഇവിടെ രാവിലെ യാത്രയും ചെയ്ത് ഇവിടെയും വന്നിരുന്നുകൊണ്ട് വെറുതെ പണി മേടിക്കാൻ വന്നേക്കുന്ന നിങ്ങളെ പറ്റി എനിക്ക് ഒത്തിരി ഭയങ്കര ഇതൊക്കെ മാറി. എന്തോന്നാ ഇവര് പറയുന്നത്? എന്താണ് കോഴ്സും മറ്റേ പ്ലൂറാലിറ്റി ഇങ്ങനെ ഡ്യൂറ്റി ഒക്കെ ഉള്ളപ്പോ പിന്നെ എന്തിനാ ഈ പണിക്ക് പോകേണ്ട ആവശ്യമുണ്ടെന്ന്, എന്തിനാ നിങ്ങൾ ഈ പണി മേടിക്കാൻ നിങ്ങൾ ഇങ്ങനെ വന്നത്? അതുകൊണ്ട് നിങ്ങളോട് എനിക്ക് വലിയ സ്നേഹമാണ് ശരിക്കും. പണി മേടിക്കാൻ വന്നേക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കാരല്ലേ, പണി കിട്ടും ശരി കേട്ടാ. ഇനി എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാൻ ഇതിൽ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ആയെന്നുള്ളതാണ് പറ്റി എനിക്ക്. ഞാൻ ഒന്നും എഴുതിയിട്ടില്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞില്ല. മൈ അപ്പോളജി ഫോർ സ്പീക്കിംഗ്, ബിക്കോസ് ഐ തിങ്ക് ഇൻ ദാറ്റ് സെൻസ് ഓഫ് ദി ടേം ഐ തിങ്ക് യു ഈച്ച് വൺ ഓഫ് യു ആർ മച്ച് മോർ equipped to speak than me. That's what I say. We belong to same category. കുറെ ഞാൻ ഈ മാഷന്മാർക്ക് I have offered what is called ഇതാണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു വിക്ടിം ഇരിപ്പുണ്ട് അവിടെ, ഒരു സമ്മർ ട്രെയിനിങ് കോഴ്സ് ഒക്കെ നടത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ I used to ask them actually what actually ails you, നിങ്ങളുടെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ട് എന്താണ്? അത് പ്രൊഫസറായപ്പോ ചെറിയ പ്രൊഫസർ കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഒത്തിരി കഴിഞ്ഞു, പ്രൊഫസറായപ്പം ബോധമൊന്നുമില്ലായിരുന്നു. 10-15 കൊല്ലം പ്രൊഫസർ കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോ ചെറിയ ബോധം വന്നപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങി. അപ്പൊ അവര് പറഞ്ഞു, കേട്ടോ സാറേ, ഞങ്ങളെല്ലാം നല്ല PSC ടെസ്റ്റിന് കൈക്കൂലി കൊടുത്ത് വന്ന ആൾക്കാരൊന്നുമല്ല. കുട്ടികൾക്ക് സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് ആർ നോട്ട് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റഡ്. സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് ആർ നോട്ട് ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റഡ്. ഞാൻ ക്ലാസ് when I take class, ഒരൊറ്റ കുട്ടിയുടെ മുഖം മാറിയാൽ, ഒരൊറ്റ എഴുത്ത് പറഞ്ഞാൽ പേർത്തൊഴുകാൻ തുടങ്ങും എന്നെ. I just can't speak after that. That's my problem. Because I know that I am teaching something which is of not interest to you. I am not interesting to him. ജപ്പാനിൽ എന്റെ ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് പറയും, ക്ലാസ് എടുത്തില്ല പറയും, ടീച്ചർ എന്താ പറയുന്നത്, പിള്ളേർ എന്താ പറയുക, give me my money, give me my money. Students will ask, where is my money? Give me my money. You are not teaching me. അപ്പം I do a self critique of myself and I say that എന്റെ ഗതി അതാണെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങളൊക്കെ എന്നും വേർക്കുകയായിരിക്കുമല്ലോ. ജനലിലേക്ക് നോക്കിയിരിക്കുന്ന, മൊബൈലിലേക്ക് നോക്കിയിരുന്ന് പഠിപ്പിക്കുന്ന കുട്ടികളെ എത്ര മണിക്കൂർ നിങ്ങൾ കാത്തിരിക്കും? അപ്പം ഞാൻ തോർത്ത് എന്തുകൊണ്ടായിരിക്കും എന്റെ കാരണം? My dear friends, I am inclined to believe that each one of these students, നിങ്ങളുടെ മുന്നിൽ വരുന്ന ഓരോ കുട്ടിയും ആ കുട്ടിയുടെ ജീവിതാനുഭവമാകുന്ന ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്ക്, അവരുടെ ചുറ്റുപാടും കാണുന്ന ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്ക്, അതുമായിട്ടാണ് നിങ്ങളുടെ ക്ലാസ്സിലേക്ക് വരുന്നത്. ആ ക്ലാസ്സിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരുന്ന ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്കിനെ അവരുടെ മനസ്സിൽ നിന്നും തട്ടിത്തെറിപ്പിച്ചിട്ട് അവർ ജീവിക്കുന്ന ജീവിത സാഹചര്യങ്ങളുമായി യാതൊരു ബന്ധവുമില്ലാത്ത ഒരു ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് അവരുടെ തലയിലേക്ക് ഡെയിലി കുത്തിക്കയറ്റിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നാൽ, ഇതുവരെ ഒറ്റ അധ്യാപനം കുട്ടി ആക്രമിച്ചതായിട്ട് ഞാൻ കേട്ടില്ല. കേരളത്തിലെ ഒരൊറ്റ അധ്യാപകനെയും ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് മാഷന്മാരെയും കുട്ടി കയറി അടിച്ചതായിട്ട് ഞാൻ കേട്ടിട്ടില്ല. നിങ്ങൾ we should be thankful. We should be thankful for that. Day after day after, month after month, year after year, they are suffering you. കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം ഞാൻ നീട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടു പോകുന്നില്ല, ഇപ്പൊ നിർത്താം. അപ്പം എന്തോ ഞാനിപ്പോ ഇവിടെ നിന്ന് എഴുതിയ സാറേ, എനിക്ക് വേറൊരു സാധനം ഒരു പവർ പോയിന്റ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, അതും മറന്നുപോയി. കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം ഇവിടെ അതിനെ വിളിച്ചിട്ട് പവർ പോയിന്റ് ഉണ്ടാക്കിയായിരുന്നു, അത് മറന്നു. അപ്പം ആരെങ്കിലും കണ്ടു പഠിച്ച ഇത്രയും സിസ്റ്റമാറ്റിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ആളിനെ കണ്ടില്ല. എന്തുപോലെ എഴുതിക്കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് ഐ എം നെവർ ഡൺ, ഐ ക്യാൻ നെവർ ഡു ദാറ്റ്. എനിവേ, അപ്പം നമ്മൾ ലക്സംബർഗിന്റെയും അമേരിക്കയുടെയും ഇന്ത്യയുടെയും ഒക്കെ GDP പറയുന്നത് നമ്മൾ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞു, അലക്സ് പറഞ്ഞു. നമ്മുടെ പഞ്ചായത്തിന്റെ GDP നമുക്കറിയില്ല. അത് വലിയ കഷ്ടമല്ലേ? എന്താണ് ഇലാസ്റ്റിസിറ്റി ഓഫ് ഡിമാൻഡ് എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എന്റെ മോള് പറഞ്ഞത്, ഇന്ന ടീച്ചർ പേര് പറഞ്ഞു, നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിയുന്ന ടീച്ചറാ, പഠിപ്പിച്ച തന്ന നോട്ട് ബുക്കിന്റെ 14-ാം പേജിൽ 3-ാമത്തെ പാരഗ്രാഫിൽ 6ഉം 7ഉം സെന്റൻസ് ആണ്, ലൈനാണ് ഇലാസ്റ്റിസിറ്റി ഓഫ് ഡിമാൻഡ്. ആ പേജ് കയറിപ്പോയാൽ റാൻഡം ആക്സസ് മെമ്മറി പോലെ അത് പോയി. പരീക്ഷ കഴിയുമ്പോഴേ മൊത്തം പോയി ചാച്ച. മൊത്തം പോയി. അതാണ് നമ്മുടെ ഇക്കണോമിക്സ്. ഇപ്പൊ നിർത്തിക്കളാം, എനിക്കറിയാം സാർ ഗെറ്റിംഗ് വിശക്കുന്നെന്ന് അറിയാം. 10-8 ഓക്കെ. എന്താണ് ഒരു യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി? എന്താണ് ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് ടീച്ചിങ്? ഐ വിൽ ബി വെരി ബ്രീഫ്. യൂണിവേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് നോളജ്. ഒരു യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്ന പ്രദേശത്തെ സാമ്പത്തിക, സാമൂഹിക, സാങ്കേതിക പ്രശ്നങ്ങളുടെ അവസാനത്തെ വാക്ക് പറയാൻ ഒരു യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിക്ക് കഴിയുന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ, അതിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ന്യൂയോർക്കിൽ നിന്നും കാലിഫോർണിയയിൽ നിന്നും എക്സ്പേർട്സ് ഒന്ന് ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ എന്തിനാ ശമ്പളം മേടിക്കുന്നത്? വീട്ടിൽ പോയിരുന്നാ പോലെ. ഞാൻ പഠിച്ച ഒരു യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയിൽ എനിക്കറിയാം, എഡ്വേർഡ് ലേമറയിൽ അവർ പഠിക്കുന്ന കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ക്ലാസിക്കൽ ന്യൂസ്. ഞാൻ വേറെ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയിലുള്ള ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി പോയപ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് അവിടെ പഠിപ്പിക്കുന്നത് മാർക്സ് ആൻഡ് ഇക്കണോമിക്സ്, അപ്പുറത്തെ ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് ഇല്ല. നമ്മളുടെ ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ആ പ്ലൂറാലിറ്റി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ സാധനം ഇല്ല. നമ്മുടെ സൗകര്യത്താണ്. ഞാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം ഒരു ടീച്ചറും ഒക്കെ നീണ്ടുപോകും. ടീച്ചറിന്റെ പ്രൊമോഷൻ പോയപ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് അത് പറഞ്ഞു. അപ്പൊ ടീച്ചർ പറഞ്ഞു, ഞാൻ എന്നോട് ഫിസിക്കൽ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ ടീച്ചറായിരുന്നു അവിടുത്തെ പ്രൊഫസർ, അല്ല പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ, സാർ എന്നൊരു ക്ലാസ് എടുക്കാമെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു. ഞാൻ പിള്ളേരോട് 2 മണിക്കൂർ നേരം വർത്തമാനങ്ങളൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞു. ഭയങ്കര ചിരിയും കളിയൊക്കെ. ഞാൻ മക്കളോട്, എന്റെ കുട്ടികളെ നിങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ മോഹം കിട്ടേക്കുന്ന സ്വന്തം എല്ലാ കണ്ണുകളൊക്കെ ഇത്ര വിടരുന്ന കണ്ണുകൾ. എന്നെ ഭയങ്കര ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്തില്ല. ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളെക്കാളൊക്കെ വെറും പൊട്ടനായിരുന്നു ശരിക്ക്. നിങ്ങളൊക്കെ എത്ര മിടുക്കന്മാരാ. അപ്പൊ ഉണ്ണാമ്പ ടീച്ചർ, സാറ് വലിയ പൊക്കി പറിക്കാൻ ചിരിക്കുകയും കളിക്കുകയൊക്കെ ചെയ്തല്ല, അതില് പകുതി എണ്ണത്തിന് പേര് എഴുതാൻ അറിയത്തില്ല ശരിക്കും. അതാണ് ഞാൻ ഇങ്ങോട്ട് പോന്നപ്പം, ഞാൻ ഇരുന്നപ്പം കാറിലിരുന്നപ്പോൾ ആലോചിച്ചു, ഓ അവനോട് മാറിയിരുന്നിട്ട് റോക്കറ്റ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ ചിലപ്പോൾ റോക്കറ്റ് ഉണ്ടായിക്കളയും. ടീച്ചറിന്റെ ജോലി നിലനിർത്താൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ അവൻ അറിയത്തില്ല എന്നുള്ളതാണ് പ്രശ്നം. നമ്മുടെ അവന്റെ കഴിവെന്താന്ന് നമുക്കറിയാം. എനിവേ, നൗ ദി പോയിന്റ് വിച്ച് ഐ വാണ്ട് ടു സേ ഇസ് ദാറ്റ് ആ ഒരു അതിന്റെ പ്രശ്നം മനസ്സിലായി. നാഷണൽ റിസർച്ച് പ്രോഗ്രാമിന് NRPPയുടെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് ഞാൻ ഒരു റബ്ബർ പോളിസിയെ പറ്റി നമ്മുടെ റിലയൻസിനെയും ഇതിലുള്ള എല്ലാവരെയും വിളിച്ചുകൂട്ടി ചർച്ച നടത്താൻ വേണ്ടി നേരെ നമ്മൾ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയിൽ വിളിച്ചു. ഒരാളെ വിടാമോ അതിനെപ്പറ്റി അഭിപ്രായം പറയാൻ? ആരുമില്ല. എവിടുന്ന് ഞാൻ വിളിക്കുന്നത്? ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ യേൽ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയിൽ നിന്ന് ഓക്സ്ഫോർഡിൽ നിന്നുള്ള ആൾക്കാരെ വിളിച്ചത്. റബ്ബറിന്റെ ഈറ്റില്ലത്തുള്ള ഹെഡ്ക്വാർട്ടേഴ്സുള്ള യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയിൽ നിന്ന് വിളിച്ചിട്ട് അവിടുന്ന് ഒരാൾ വരാനില്ല. പിന്നെ നമ്മൾ എന്തോന്ന് ഗവേഷണം നടത്തുന്നേ? ഞാൻ രാവിലെ പോകുമ്പോൾ, കോളേജിലേക്ക് പോകുമ്പോൾ, സ്കൂളിലേക്ക് പോകുമ്പോൾ, ഓഫീസിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോൾ 1 രൂപയ്ക്ക് 100 രൂപയ്ക്ക് 4 കിലോ ഏത്തക്കായ എന്ന കാണുന്ന ബോർഡ് കാണുമ്പോൾ അതിന്റെ പുറകിലേക്ക് ചിന്തിക്കുവാനും, അതിന്റെ പുറകിലുള്ള ഡിസ്ട്രിബ്യൂഷന്റെ ഇമ്പാക്റ്റും, അതിന്റെ പുറകിലുള്ള പോവർട്ടിയുടെ ഇമ്പാക്റ്റും, അതിന്റെ പുറകിലുള്ള ഇക്കണോമിക്സും പഠിപ്പിക്കാൻ എന്റെ കുട്ടിയെ ഇൻഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയുന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ പിന്നെ എന്തിനാ നമ്മള് 4 അക്കം 6 അക്കം 8 അക്കം ശമ്പളം വാങ്ങിക്കുക? ആ രീതിയിലാണോ ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് മാറേണ്ടത്? ചിന്തിക്കേണ്ടിയിരിക്കുന്നു. അതിനൊക്കെ കൂടുതൽ ഏറ്റവും പ്രശ്നം ഞാൻ നിർത്താൻ പോകണം, പെട്ടെന്ന് കേട്ടോ, നിർത്താൻ പോവാ. എനിക്ക് പിന്നെ കൺവിൻസിങ് ആണ്. അവിടെ PhD, ഞാൻ ഇപ്പൊ പണ്ടേ PhD കോർഡിനേറ്റർ ആണ് കൊല്ലങ്ങളായിട്ട്. ഇവിടെ വന്നപ്പോഴത്തേക്കും PhD. നമ്മുടെ എന്താ ഇവിടെ PhDക്കകത്ത് മറ്റേ PH പോയി. ബോഡിയിൽ നിന്നും ശരീരത്തിൽ നിന്നും ആത്മാവ് പോയതുപോലെ എനിക്ക് കിട്ടുന്ന PhD തീസിനകത്തൊന്നും I don't find thinkers, I find technicians. റിവ്യൂ ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ എഴുതുന്ന എങ്ങനെയാ? There's no analytical framework. What is the difference between a PhD thesis and a report? I got only once across eight academic staff colleges, I think 8 or 9 I taught. അപ്പൊ അവസാനം ഒരിക്കൽ നമ്മുടെ അനിത ടീച്ചറിന്റെ അടുത്ത് ടീച്ചർ നമുക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ സാർ നമുക്കൊന്ന് പഠിപ്പിക്കുന്ന. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ ഞാൻ അണ്ടർ ഗ്രാഡ് പോസ്റ്റ് ഗ്രാഡ് എല്ലാ ബോർഡ് ഓഫ് സ്റ്റഡീസ് ആൾക്കാരെ വിളിച്ചു. ഞങ്ങൾ രാത്രിയിലാണ് സംസാരിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്. അവരുടെ സിലബസ് നോക്കി. തെറ്റായിരിക്കും ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു, തെറ്റാണ്, എനിക്ക് തെറ്റ് തന്നെ പറയണമെന്നാണ് ആഗ്രഹം കേട്ടോ. ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് മുഴുവൻ തെറ്റാകട്ടെ എന്ന് ആഗ്രഹിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ പറയാണ്. ഒരൊറ്റ സിലബസിൽ പോലും ഒരു സ്റ്റാൻഡേർഡ് ജേണൽ ആർട്ടിക്കിൾ ഇല്ല. നമ്മൾ പഠിപ്പിക്കുന്നത് ഇപ്പോഴും. ഞാൻ ഗുസ്താവ് റാണിസിനെ കണ്ടപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ കരുതി ഗുസ്താവൊക്കെ മരിച്ചു പോയി, മറ്റേ ഇങ്ങനെ പലാന്നാ കരുതിയ. അന്ന് നമുക്ക് ഈ ഇന്റർനെറ്റ് ഒന്നും ഇല്ലല്ലോ. ഞാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ചു മറ്റേ ആഡം സ്മിത്തും ഗുസ്താവും ഒക്കെ അങ്ങനെയാണെന്നാ കരുതിയ. എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മുടെ പിള്ളേർക്ക് ഇപ്പോൾ ഉള്ളതെല്ലാം 15 അല്ല. പിന്നെ വേണ്ട നല്ല കരിക്കുലം കേട്ടോ. കരിക്കുലം ഫസ്റ്റാണ്, പക്ഷെ വായിക്കുന്നത് എന്ത് വേറെ കാര്യം. അപ്പം ഞാൻ എന്നിട്ട് മാഷന്മാർക്കൊക്കെ ഒരു കത്ത്, എല്ലാ വി സിമാർക്കും ഒരു കത്ത് എഴുതി. ഒരു വി സി നേരിട്ട് നേരെ ഹയർ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ കൗൺസിൽ ചെയർമാൻ കൊടുത്തു. എല്ലാ വി സിമാരും വളരെ പോസിറ്റീവ് റെസ്പോണ്ട്. എല്ലാ വി സിമാരും അല്ലേ. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു വെക്കുകയാണ്, യു ഹാവ് എ മേജർ ചാലഞ്ച്. ഈ വലിയ വെല്ലുവിളിയെ ഏറ്റെടുക്കുക. ആ വലിയ വെല്ലുവിളി ഏറ്റെടുക്കാൻ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പറ്റും. അത് പറ്റുമായിട്ടാണ് നിങ്ങളോട് ഇരിക്കുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നിങ്ങൾ വന്നത്. നിങ്ങളുടെ ഈ മാറ്റം നിങ്ങളിൽ കൂടി ഉണ്ടാകട്ടെ എന്ന് ആശംസിക്കുകയാണ്. താങ്ക് യു വെരി മച്ച്. ഒരു അപ്പോളജി ഉണ്ട്. ഞങ്ങൾ ചായ അവിടെ പുറത്ത് വെച്ചിരുന്നു. എത്ര പേര് കഴിച്ചു എന്നറിയില്ല. കുറെ പേര് കഴിച്ചു, കുറെ പേര് കഴിച്ചില്ല. ഇപ്പൊ ഇവിടെ ചായ കുടിക്കാത്ത ആൾക്കാരുണ്ട്. അപ്പം ഞാൻ അതുകൊണ്ടുള്ള അവരോട് സോൾഡായിട്ടോട് ഞാൻ ചായ കഴിച്ചില്ല കേട്ടോ. അതുകൊണ്ടുള്ള സോൾഡായിട്ട് ഞാൻ ചായ കഴിക്കുക. എനിക്ക് ചായ ഭയങ്കര എത്ര ചായ കഴിച്ചാൽ കിട്ടുന്ന കൂട്ടത്തിലാണ്. അപ്പം ചായ കിട്ടാത്തവരോടുള്ള സോൾഡാരിറ്റിൽ ഞാനും ചായ കഴിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. ഐ എം സോറി അബൌട്ട് ഇറ്റ്. ഇനിയില്ല, ഇത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് 12
we have one more very important presentation because in fact when we thought of this task, initially we requested Hemant to prepare an approach paper, and I never thought that he'll take it so seriously, and he had written a full length paper. He has put in a lot of work, really done good research on this. And this paper, which I read in the morning, in fact, encourages us to go ahead with this task of working with curriculum change. Before I invite Hemant to make his presentation, I'll just make a remark on Professor Joseph's presentation. He is very disturbed by the divide between the economy that we live. A person from Kattapana or Changanaseri, the economy we live, and the economics we learn. The economy that we try to see through our curriculum, our textbooks, that's very different from the economy we live. That's a very important problem. And കൃത്യമായിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മുടെ സമൂഹത്തിന് വേണ്ടി നമുക്ക് ഒന്നും ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയാത്ത അവസ്ഥ, നമ്മുടെ സമ്പദ്ഘടനയെ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ കഴിയാത്ത അവസ്ഥ, അത് വളരെ വ്യാപകമാണ്. അത് പിന്നെ സ്റ്റുഡൻസിന്റെ അളവിൽ മാത്രമല്ല. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു പോളിസി ഇഷ്യൂ ഗവൺമെന്റ് ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് എക്കണോമിസ്റ്റുകളെ വിളിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പല കാര്യങ്ങളിലും അവർക്കൊന്നും കോൺട്രിബ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. അവർ ചില റിഗ്രഷൻ റിസൾട്ട്സും 1-2 പേപ്പറുകൾ ഇതുമായിട്ടൊന്നും ബന്ധമില്ലാത്തത് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് വിട്ടുപോകും എന്നുള്ളതല്ലാതെ കേരളത്തിലെ ഹയർ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനെ കുറിച്ച് പക്ഷെ ഇതിനെപ്പറ്റി എല്ലാം എന്തൊക്കെയോ അവിടെ ഇവിടെയും ചെറിയ പേപ്പറുകളൊക്കെ എഴുതുന്നുണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ സമഗ്രമായ ഒരു കാഴ്ചപ്പാടൊന്നും വരാത്തതിന്റെ ഒരു പ്രശ്നമുണ്ട്. അതിന്റെ ഒരു ധാർമ്മിക രോഷമാണ് പ്രൊഫസർ ജോസഫിന്റെ ആ പ്രസന്റേഷനിൽ വന്നത്. ഇപ്പൊ ഉദാഹരണത്തിന് നമ്മളിപ്പം നമ്മുടെ നഗരങ്ങളെല്ലാം വലിയ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ നേരിട്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. വേസ്റ്റ് നമ്മളെല്ലാം പരാതി പറയും. പക്ഷെ നഗരാസൂത്രണത്തെ കുറിച്ച് ആരെന്ത് പഠിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്? അതേസമയം പഠിക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കാരുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പം എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് കോളേജിലൊക്കെ നഗരാസൂത്രണത്തെ പറ്റി പഠിക്കും. പക്ഷെ ആ എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് കോളേജുകാർ എഴുതുന്ന പേപ്പറും അതുപോലെ കാര്യങ്ങളൊന്നും അതാത് നഗരസഭകളുമായിട്ട് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യത്തില്ല. നഗരസഭകൾ തിരിച്ച് അങ്ങോട്ടും ചോദിക്കത്തില്ല. വലിയ ഡിവൈഡാണ് ശരിക്കും അക്കാഡമിയും പോളിസിയുമായിട്ട്, അക്കാഡമിയും റിയൽ ലൈഫ് ബിസിനസ് അതുപോലുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളായിട്ട്. അത് എക്കണോമിക്സിൽ അത് വലിയൊരു ചലഞ്ച് തന്നെയാണ് എന്നുള്ളത് പ്രൈവറ്റ് കോൺവെർസേഷനിൽ എപ്പോഴും പ്രൊഫസർ ജോസഫ് പറയുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യമാണ്. അന്ന് വളരെ ഷാർപ്പായിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞു. സിലബസ് റിവിഷനിൽ ഈ തോട്ട് വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്. ലെറ്റ് മീ നൗ ഇൻവൈറ്റ് അവർ Dr. Hemant to make his presentation. You know, I know that he cannot do justice to what he has written, but within the time available.
Actually, I consider myself less of a speaker than a writer. So whatever I have to convey, not just to this audience, but to teachers of economics all over Kerala, is actually there in my paper. So, I just request that all of you read it. And again, there is full democratic freedom. I invite you to criticize it, to tear it apart, and to tell me where exactly I have gone totally off. With respect, yes, sure. So again, I mean, if you read this paper, you will understand what my concern is. And let me put it this way. I see that we have teachers here from Charthala, from Koranjedi, and myself, my colleagues, we are from Etumanur. So my concern is Kerala University, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kannur University, Kozhikode University, Mofussil areas of our universities. There are colleges. Students come with, very different backgrounds. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, how are we going to develop a syllabus which caters to this wide audience? So if my presentation, my paper looks different from what has gone on before, please understand that this is the perspective that I have. മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയാനാണെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ പാൽപ്പായസത്തിന്റെ കാര്യമല്ല, ചോറും പരിപ്പിന്റെ കാര്യമാണ് ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത്. ഹിന്ദി പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ मैं दाल रोटी की बात कर रही हूँ, खीर की नहीं. I am talking about bread and butter issues. I am not talking about champagne and caviar. So let me come back to the classroom. I am the principal of a college. Joseph certainly knows what I'm talking about. The head of an institution practically is killed by administrative duties.
Still you wrote.
Yes.
I'm admiring.
I will come to that at the end. So, teaching is very difficult. Teaching an MA course is very difficult, but I try to do it to the best of my ability because I have been a teacher all my life. I do not want to give that up. That is what I really find enjoyable. I mean, it has nothing to do with whether it's good for the students. It has to do with, the satisfaction that I get. It is my private utility that matters for me. But anyway, the thing that bothers me when I teach an MA class, I have put a couple of my experiences in here. I ask my MA students, by the way, let me put it this way. I have a collection of students. Some of them are average, some of them are above average, perhaps some of them are not, academically they are not very good. Some. I have a mixture of students. I ask them a question. Okay, this variable, the value of the variable was X in 2022. The value of the variable is Y in 2023. How much has it grown? How do you calculate that? I have cases where I have 8 students in front of me and none of them were able to answer this question. Mind you, these are students who have a BA economics degree. From X to Y, how much has this variable grown? They don't know how to compute it. That bothers me. The fact that they have not been exposed to, the wide variety of paradigms. Probably, yeah, probably. See, even probably some of them, yes. If you look at the paper, I mean, I have put it in as plain a language as I can. Especially when we design an undergraduate syllabus, okay, we have to be, our feet have to be very much on the ground. Or otherwise, we are going to get lost in our own fancies of, what education should be, the high ideals. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to contradict anyone, but I'm trying to say, I have the faces of, umpteen students in my mind. And the questions that I'm trying to answer here are for those specific students. I'm not talking about the philosophy of education, what education should be ideally. All that is there in my mind somewhere, but this I have done with the express purpose of asking our teachers of economics to make sure that certain fundamentals, certain basic skills, I mean, think of this situation. You send your children to a nursery school. They don't teach the alphabet. They give them, the students a wide variety of, philosophies. They talk about Adam Smith, Marx, and the student, your child comes back and says, the alphabet. Who cares about the alphabet? The alphabet is, an oppressive regime that has been imposed on us by, sorry, I just don't have much sympathy or respect for the kind of education which ignores the basics and immediately jumps onto, extremely, I wouldn't say fanciful, but extremely high-flying ideas. Let me put it very concretely. I'm sure that Professor Alex Thomas had a very neoclassical education in his bachelor's and master's degree, and that did not prevent him from becoming an excellent heterodox economist. I am sure that he got a first-class education in neoclassical economics with all its limitations, and he was able to do excellent work in a very different tradition. My opinion is we should make sure that certain basic ideas, certain basic concepts, if a student does not know how to calculate a growth rate, you as a teacher, we as an education system have utterly and completely failed. It does not matter that, we have given them a lot of fanciful ideas that they are warriors for, world peace. They might be all that, but that was not the point of the education that, they came for to the college. Bread and butter first, champagne and caviar later. Okay, so I have another student, the one area that I have severely criticized in this paper, I had to tone my language down. Let me put it that way. If I had expressed my righteous anger about the way econometrics is taught, you probably would have not, let me enter this saying, this, we don't want riffraff like you entering this class, because that is the sort of language that I would have used. I have a question paper amended to the end of this paper. Okay, it's an econometrics question paper at the for a bachelor's degree. I thought very carefully whether I should do it, because this is my university's question paper, and they can certainly take it as of the board of studies or of the syndicate of the university authorities. It is none of that. All universities are the same as far as I'm concerned. This is not a criticism of a specific university. Now, what I'm asking you to show me is, show me one question in this question paper which asks for data analysis. Where is the data analysis in this econometrics question paper? Let me read a couple of questions. How can multicollinearity be detected? Why is autocorrelation a problem? State the Gauss-Markov theorem. Explain the definition and scope of econometrics. What are the steps in econometric model building? Where is the data analysis? If a student who has taken one paper, one semester of econometrics, has not done one regression, some of you might not even believe what I'm saying right now. They have not done a single regression during a semester of econometrics. What are we teaching them? I interview people with master's degrees, net, set. I have 5 of my colleagues sitting with me here. I ask them, have you done econometrics? Some of them say yes, some of them say no. If they say yes, I write an equation, y is equal to 1.5 plus 0.2x. And then underneath the 1.5 and under the 0.2, I have 2 numbers in parentheses. I ask them, what are those numbers in the parentheses? Is there any confusion about it? I'm trying to elicit the response. Is that a t-value or is it a standard error? They have no idea. In most cases, they have not seen a regression result being reported. What are we teaching them? Before we start talking about highly philosophical ideas, which we can do at the postgraduate level, when we are teaching them MA economics, and certainly after that, for PhD, let them open their mind, let them look at things in a very wide perspective, let them read Marx, let them read, Polanyi, let them read all the heterodox, writers, and there are a wide variety of them. But when we design an undergraduate syllabus, our feet should be firmly on the ground. And I think with these words, I recommend that all of you read the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hemant. Thank you, Dr. Hemant. In fact, I'll also recommend everybody that they read the paper, because I have a complaint that the presentation didn't do justice to the paper you have written. Because again, like your emotions, took the lead, and then the content of the paper was not mentioned. In fact, Hemant has gone through the syllabus, microeconomics, macroeconomics, what is being taught, what is missing, those details he has taken up for very detailed discussion. And that somehow he didn't present here. So we should all read his paper. And certainly our panelists, distinguished panelists, Professor Srijit and Dr. Alex, we hope that they will also give us a write-up which can be circulated and discussed further. Now we have some response to or kind of discussion from students, and the suggestion is that they should be taking only 5 minutes each. And let me request Devika Vinod, Asim Premji University, Bangalore, to start.
I am talking as an undergrad student, like I just completed my undergraduation and just joined the post-graduation program. So I just skimmed through sir's paper, and something that I found very interesting is that I agree with a lot of things that he mentioned in his paper, especially the econometrics part. We are not exposed to the data, or we are not exposed to any side that is related with analysis. And it's often very difficult, especially when we are shifting universities. Like when we go for an internship, or we are shifting another university, then they specifically ask, what have you studied from econometrics? What is your base in that subject? Often we are left with a confused phase. We are not able to answer their questions. That is a major problem that we are facing. Then we should think what a student aspires for, like Alexa has mentioned in his talk. All of the students that I have seen or I have encountered mainly prefers for placement or research opportunities, and just to land in a prestigious institution after completing their undergrad. So sir was talking about the problem of homogeneity. I think that it already exists within our academia. The main problem is that almost all the entrance examination have a homogeneous pattern. So once students are enrolled in an undergrad program, their only concern is cracking the post-graduation entrance examination. And there is a set of textbook that are mentioned in almost all the entrance syllabuses, like Mankiv or Complete Dornbush for micro part, and Econometrics Gujarati. And these are the standard textbook that almost everybody follows. And where is pluralism in that? Often we misses that part when we are running before entrance examination. And for the placement part, often an undergrad student is lacking every skill that he or she requires to complete or compete in the job industry. It is often very difficult to go to a workplace and say that I completed my undergrad in economics and I know nothing about economics. It is very saddening and a disheartening situation. And sir has mentioned in his paper that if a student intends to write the examination of ISI or DSE, the first thing that we hear from other peer groups is that you are unfit to even write this examination because you don't have that quantitative part in your syllabus. So diversity, pluralism, stimulating our intellectual needs, everything is much needed. But we should also consider what are the aspirations of students. So if their concern is placement, they always look for a particular set of universities, and often they are not even able to write the entrance examinations, and they are deemed unfit to even sit in a particular university and study for their masters. So that situation should be changed. And mainly that's what I want to talk about. And we also need to be able to apply the economics that we study in our curriculum to a broader set of problems. If we are not able to analyze a particular set of problems that is happening around us, then there is no use in studying economics as such. So that's my opinion.
Devika, thank you for raising the very important point, which we all realize that the entrance examinations, the entrance examinations, in fact, decide what should be taught, what should be the kind of training that universities and colleges give. They have such overwhelming influence, and in different ways, that's causing a lot of damage to our higher education system. But this is an evil which cannot easily get away from. Thought should be at a higher level to sort of manage this problem and sort of maintain our diversity. Because economics, as we know, so many areas, everywhere you reduce everything to what is asked in the entrance. And the whole diversity is lost in the process. Next person, Ajina Tangam John, research scholar, University of Westminster, London.
Because I am feeling uneasy for sitting so long. What Hemant has raised is about one econometrics. It is a tool subject. The whole spectrum of a curriculum is to have options as well as main papers, whether a autonomous college should have its own curriculum and syllabus papers like that. Whole wider issue is there. When he raises the question of econometrics, It's only part of the whole story. We should not miss the wood for the trees or the trees for the woods. We can have how I solved in the econometry, in the experiment that I did only for 4 years, and the students came out so marvelously well. Afterwards, everything collapsed. One is in Cambridge, another in Manchester, one is here, IPS, 2 IPS fellows. It's wonderful students, all coming from the hinterland of Trichur, not wider area. But the students are groomed for that. If you want, you should have a totality of the whole system. That what are you going to teach? We have in all paper, we will say, what is the purpose of this paper? What is the purpose of the curriculum? The purpose of this paper is, econometrics is to equip the student with the necessary tools. If I have I taught Indian economy. One part of it is Kerala economy, first time. Indian economy we ask the students have some exercise work to do as part of it. They go to the field, they come back. For the questions, they now directly to the issues that you raise. The question, you can ask the student, for example, I applied for, I worked in 1964 for a diploma course. Government sent me for that. We were provided in the question about a fictitious country called Nolanda. It has this, that. You work out a 5-year program for that. Similarly, certain data can be given. Alex was mentioning about Thiruvananthapuram economy. Thiruvananthapuram economy data is available and provide a little bit of that in the exam. You should have practical courses as part of the course. So there should be a systematic idea about the totality of the curriculum that you are going to have. Each paper, where does it fit? So that is the way it has to be approached.
Hello, sir, am I audible?
Yes.
Hi, good morning to all. It is an honor to be here, surrounded by such a diverse and knowledgeable group. So I want to express my deepest thanks to organizers of this program, especially Sandosh sir, for giving me this opportunity. I completed my graduation from Kerala University, and after that, I went to post-graduation in Central University of Haryana. And currently, I'm doing my master's in research from Westminster University, London. From the experience I have gained, I would like to point out some areas we need to focus. We note that Kerala has been known for its progressive approach to education, but still, and we have initiated several reforms, but still we need to improve, or we need to focus on areas. First of all, I would like to point out the thing, unemployment and skill gap. We are always discussing about the unemployment rate, especially among the educated youth. We are always discussing about that. We can see, actually, I observed the thing that there is a disconnection between the skills that we are acquiring through our education and those required by the market, job market. So we need to maintain that gap. Like, we need to include some reforms in this regard to balance this unemployment and skill gap. And another thing I would like to point out, the lack of practical training. I think still we are following the traditional education system, like we are focusing on theoretical knowledge rather than providing them practical training. if they are getting, when they are getting the practical training, then only they will be able to they will get the exposure to real world economic scenarios. Like here, I'm doing my master's research in investment. The thing is that I got the opportunity to work with Bloomberg. So it's a practical gaining. Like I got the practical training from there. So if we are giving the chance to study economics or econometrics, something like that, we will give the chances to the or opportunity to the students to gain such a practical training. So I think lack of practical training, that is another drawback we are facing there. And also another point I would like to point out, the adoption of technical changes. We know that there is a rapid advancement of technology and automation. And I think as an economics student, the student must need to know how to use all this technology. It should be according to the job market requirement. Like I think we are studying all the subject which is related to mathematical or technical skill, but still I think almost our students are unaware of how to use this technique. Like we have Gretel, e-views and KPIs, but I think our students are unaware of that, like how to use this. And in my opinion, it would be better if we are starting to make them learn from degree level. Like we have already included the basic econometrics or basic mathematical tool in our syllabus. So it would be better if we are giving an opportunity to them to follow this technical skill, like how to use the Gretel or e-views. It should be better. So all these points I just pointed out from my experience, because I studied in Kerala as well as North India. I studied there in Central University and I came here. So the experience gained from all this university, I would like to point out these things. Hope this will help us to improve our education system. Thank you. Once again, thanks to organizers and Sandhu sir for giving me such an opportunity. Thank you, Gus. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ajina. Thank you for making these important points regarding employment, unemployment, and employability, etc., which our panelists mentioned, and you are highlighting those points again in a very clear way. Now, let me invite Naveen Hari, a doctoral scholar, Texas A&M University.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the invite. So I'm actually glad to see in front of the dignitaries. So basically, I'll just introduce myself. So I've done my undergrad from Goa University, and then I transited to Shivnada University for my Master of Science in Economics. And right now, I like an incoming fall student at Texas A&M University for economics. So I also parallelly run an initiative called as Economica to like build, like bridge the asymmetries of what is actually happening in the economics domain within India, and also by building a community. So all the points what I'll be bringing out would be like from a student's lens, and also something what we have tackled like while we like run this initiative. So something what I personally and from our Economica community, what we kind of found is that specifically we actually cater to the master's entrance preparing group of students. So what we kind of found is that specifically from Kerala or other parts of the country, maybe except Delhi and say Calcutta, the representation of students in most of the top institutions are pretty low. Okay, so even if you take in my batch, like there was only one Kerala like me, and there were no other people. Even when I saw like the batch like past 5-6 years also, they were like very little. And even if you take, say, consider ISA or DSE, the number is very mere. So these are consequences of, say, the kind of teaching what is happening in various parts of the country, to be specific, like in Kerala too, because Hemant sir also mentioned, like a lot of basic things are not cleared, so that the level playing ground is very different for these people, the students and the students who are studying outside. So to that, I would like to add one thing, specifically the lacking even basic level math knowledge. So instead of putting it to like Hemant sir mentioned, like say econometrics or something, I don't want to go too technical. Even the thing what he mentioned, like the computing of growth rate, I would like to see it as like a math problem than like a econometrics problem, or maybe more like a critical thinking problem. So in my like opinion, like an economist should be a good problem solver and a critical thinker. So in order to build such kind of an environment, students should have basic knowledge of math. But what do I mean by basic knowledge of math? So I can maybe tell an anecdote. Like we actually conducted like a course last year. So the tutor itself was like a JNU student, just like a recent JNU graduate. So what he kind of got surprised was he didn't even know like someone can study or maybe join an undergraduate degree in economics without studying 11, 12 maths. So he was very surprised because he actually started the course with the 12th level math. Then he, after taking a couple of lectures, he kind of understood like students are not even very thorough with basic like fifth standard or sixth standard math. See, even to, so he gave me an example like, okay, he has seen like he can actually teach how to find root of a number. That's something what he can teach, but he can't like tell each student that root of 4 is 2. So that's the situation he has kind of found from the students. And also we had put several surveys within our like part of our course, and we kind of found many students have not even done like even they have just done the math till 10th standard, and they're not really confident about doing math. So when we even asked like how confident you are with your math knowledge, so many, like almost 60% plus students were not comfortable with like doing math. And since our current curriculum, and I think most of the like job market needs also require a critical thinking and basic level of math. I'm not really talking about say like real analysis or linear algebra or big math components, but at least basic 10 to 12 level math is, I feel, something which has to be brushed up. So in the current curriculum, since the admission process happens, at least in Kerala specifically, there is no restriction to study math or science to get an admit. So I feel at least if since the level ground is different, say for someone who has done a commerce or humanities, something sort of a boot camp for a week or two before entering the bachelor's course would be beneficial. That's my recommendation. Maybe you could do something else to like make the level playing ground safe. Another couple of more points are this, so I'll just briefly talk about it. So like I mean, Ajina mentioned, so there is this emergence of this AI and other technological advancements. So in this phase, I personally feel that like the relevance of rote learning is close to zero, because teaching more and more factual things does not really add a lot to students critical thinking and problem solving ability. So like at least in the new curriculums, they should focus more on applications. To be very specific, like even in my undergrad, like I had questions which were asked specifically, like say even in micro, which is a very quant based, or maybe you can approach in any different dimension, like Alexa mentioned, like in more pluralistic way. But still, at least from the basics of micro, if you at least approach it like a neoclassical perspective, you need to at least do some basic problems, right? I mean, in my undergrad, I haven't even done a single utility maximizing problem. I didn't even know how it works. So that was the level what we were taught, but that shouldn't be the case, right? So whenever we are given I mean a subject, so instead of just by hearting stuff like knowing what is utility function and describing it or the features of it, rather students should be given an opportunity, like the questions should be set in such a way, the exam should be set in such a way that, or maybe even assessments, which actually like gives an opportunity for students to apply what they've learned. More like I think Devika also mentioned something sort of this. So some application based questions should be given, or maybe I mean like leave exams, so some assessments also should be in a similar line. Okay, so because in the upcoming age of AI, it would be very difficult for students just knowing theory. They won't be able to compete with the computer basically, or even with other candidates who are well equipped with these technologies as well. Lastly, I want to also mention, apart from the curriculum, like specifically to the thing, there should be a good involvement or maybe a support for professional development as well. Why I say this is because we also like did hire a lot of interns, like as like student interns as through our platform. So what we kind of found is that a lot of people who submit CV, especially from Kerala, they don't really even know how exactly like a CV works. It's like very old kind of a structure what they use, which is not even relevant to the current industry demands. So I even saw a CV which was something like a cover letter. I mean, I don't even know, like it was like they were written a lot of declarations and everything, but the main content is just like 2 to 3 lines and 2 pages CV. So that's not something what students should do. And this kind of extra curricular things also should be implemented in the universities or colleges so that they are competent in the crowd. Along with trainings in programming skills and other things. So that's all what I wanted to add. And also like as part of our initiative, we are also kind of launching a course which kind of caters to these issues. So that's it.
EA is open to student membership. And after hearing discussions and contribution from student participants, I realize how important is the student membership. And we will certainly continue this dialogue with students when we go ahead with our intervention syllabus. Thank you for very important points. Now, let me invite Vishnupriya from Indian Institute of Space Technology. Vishnupriya, please be brief.
Sir,
Online.
hello.
Vishnupriya,
Am I audible?
yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I would like to use this opportunity to express my gratitude to Kerala Economic Association and especially government sir for giving me this opportunity to talk and share my feedback in front of such distinguished personalities. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Vishnupriya, currently pursuing my research in Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology. I did my undergraduation and post-graduation from University of Kerala. So as a student who pursued UG and PG programs in economics from University of Kerala, I would like to point out a few drawbacks in the content, teaching and evaluation from my personal experience. So it's very sad, but I have to say that the syllabus is not sufficient to inculcate research orientation, practical understanding, analytical and critical thinking of economic problems among students. And I would like to agree with what the previous speakers have told about even lacking the basic understanding of mathematics, statistics, and economics. The syllabus is not sufficient to inculcate those basic principles in the students. Regarding econometrics, the course fails to give a conceptual understanding of the cutting-edge tools used in contemporary economic research, whether it is the IV analysis or the DID framework or the synthetic control methods or the deep learning and machine learning, reinforcement learning. Such techniques are not even mentioned in the syllabus. And also even regarding the tools taught, the questions like which tools to apply, where to apply, how to apply, and even after applying, how to interpret the results are mostly unaddressed. And the relevance of qualitative empirical methods like ethnography or life course perspective or phenomenology are not even mentioned mostly in the syllabus, and teachers don't even teach them. And also, when I started research, how to do actually frontier research or how to identify frontier, how to push the frontiers in their research areas have not been mentioned during my undergraduate as well as postgraduate learning experience. So there exists a huge vacuum in terms of equipping students to do frontier research. And also the current curriculum doesn't provide any training to identify and use the databases in global economy, like the nature of data sets, how to extract the data sets, how to analyze and interpret the results, how to use software packages, like both statistical and non-statistical software packages in data analysis, and how to interpret those results. And also, we had another paper like Indian economic policy. In that paper, it gives just a pure factual understanding of the past and present Indian economic scenario. But I feel like the theoretical and practical foundations gained from other disciplines like macroeconomics, microeconomics, development economics, or public finance should be integrated to the syllabus and teaching of Indian economy, so that students develop the skills like problem solving and critical thinking when they approach practical economic problems. And also, regarding the teaching method and evaluation, it does not enable students to question the narratives or criticize the theories, think originally, or solve the problems. Moreover, it is focused on rote learning, especially of outdated theories. And also, I feel like the evaluation, especially the assignments, rather than giving a topic and probably writing 5 or 10 pages on the set problem, it should be focused on practical problems like worksheets based on practical problems, or generating own ideas. Such tasks should be assigned to students. Also, when it comes to selection of courses, the students don't have liberty to specialize in areas they prefer. When other universities give choice to take sub-disciplines within each discipline, we are given just 2 options as electives, and sometimes not even an option. We have to but we have to take the only option available to us. And also, I feel like when the world is steering towards interdisciplinarity, here the interdisciplinarity is mostly confined to disciplines within the realm of social sciences. I feel like interdisciplinary learning, which integrates the disciplines in pure sciences with economics, should be promoted, like the application of network theory, or such interdisciplinary thinking should be promoted in universities, which I find is mostly inadequate. So those are the main feedback which I want to share, especially from my personal experience. And thank you once again for this amazing opportunity.
Thank you, Vishnupriya. You are increasing the number of challenges that the curriculum will be facing, even the Kerala government. Right now you told something which will be a challenge to college teachers, their organizations, etc. Like collaborating among social science disciplines. That itself is a problem. Now you are saying that no, you should have courses where there should be science and social sciences coming together. In fact, these are all wonderful ideas. And in fact, individually, if you speak to scholars, leaders, they all agree. But when it comes to implementing these things, lot of resistance at various level from the university. The structures will prevent, and it will really require lot of convincing, lot of campaigning about these new ideas, so that the teachers, the organizations, and society in general accept these kind of changes, which we cannot resist for long. If we resist for long, we will all be doomed, and students will not be there in the colleges. So we will have to prepare and change. Thank you for raising these points. Now, in fact, in the online mode, there are many scholars, senior economists participating. We have not done justice to them. From here, in fact, we feel sorry for not getting their opinion. In fact, Professor Harikumar, we are missing here, actually. Usually he is here, and then that will be a major incentive energy for us. This time he didn't join us. Professor Harikumar, would you like to start the discussion? unmuted.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So thank you very much for giving me a chance to for in this deliberation. In fact, I was attending the whole discussion right from the beginning, and I'm concerned with the comments given by the students. I will not take too much of time, couple of minutes only, because already 1:15. So especially a comment by Vishnu Priya of interdisciplinary approach in teaching, and Professor Hadlal also commented upon that part. Then my experience I would like to share is in my department or in CUSAT, we used to give freedom to students to choose from any department. No problem for that. Even with different faculty, we tried. Then what happened was that some in one batch, that is last batch, I think, they selected a paper from computer science. Sorry, from computer applications, they selected one course. What happened is that the basic requirement that computer application people require, that they are not giving to the general students. So what happened is that the students could not comprehend what they are delivering. So in fact, the way in which they teach, if they are giving practical classes, they are giving practical assessments, so many things they are doing it. Still, the students from social sciences found it very difficult. That is one point. Then again, some of the students also joined for another course in statistics department for analysis with the R programming, something like that. But they teach the paper right from the basics. So what happened is that in that course, our students performed well. Then general opinion in the campus is that the way in which the R program is taught in an interdisciplinary framework is very, very highly rated. So what I think is that when we go for an interdisciplinary approach in teaching, especially social science, like computer technology like that, the way in which the course is delivered must be suited to the students. One point. That is one point I would like to share with Vishnu Priya. Then when we frame a curriculum, the aspirations of the students, especially what they are seeking after completing the course. Are they going for higher studies? Are they going to market? For that aspect, we have to have an actual trade-off is essential. But the current syllabus, what I found is that either at the undergraduate level or at PG level, the students are not getting exactly the right kind of theoretical and the quantitative information, and how to use it, or how they can use it to solve the realistic problems, especially in economics. When we assign a topic for projects, then they will be writing the project purely in a sociological manner, or only a socio-economic type of thing. But the content of economics in it is coming down, which means that the students are not in a position to translate these things, what they have learned in the classroom, in the problem solving framework. I think in one of the discussion earlier in our group itself, in Ernakulam itself, then one of the teachers remarked that we are giving students projects, but the completed projects are lying in the department shelf itself. But then I asked the teacher, why can't you share it with your panchayat or something like that? Then they may look into it, or whenever you get a chance to deliberate with these people, then you should it. Then if they are interested, then they may be eliciting your opinion. So that kind of approach is essential in our curriculum, that not only theoretical, but qualitative, quantitative, and the way in practical or practically solving the issue. When I'm saying the theoretical thing, then the point is that the clear conceptual understanding is essential. Without the conceptual understanding, the quantitative measurement and analytic part will become very big. So when we frame a curricular, then we have to take into account the way in which Professor Umman sir explained, then Surjit explained, Alex explained, everything are complementing each other so that we are getting enough inputs on that. Hope that we will be able to develop further on this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Harikumar. Let me now invite Professor Muralidharan if he's still there. And others can, in fact, no, show their hand and volunteer to make presentations.
മുരളീധരൻ ഉണ്ടല്ലോ
ഉണ്ടോ?
ഉണ്ട്. ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പേര് കണ്ടു.
അതെ അതെ. Professor Muralidharan, if you can hear. Are you there?
Otherwise, Ashokan will speak. Ashokan is there.
Yeah, Ashokan, please. You're there, we can see you. Yeah. Yeah, please, we can see you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Harilal. So, very interesting, deliberations, starting from the chair through Professor Umman, and ultimately ending up at, Dr. Harikumar. I will take only 1 minute. So, one important issue I would like to share at the moment is the quality of teaching. So I must be, self-critical as a teacher. The teaching quality across universities in Kerala. This is my primary submission. Number two, if you frame a curriculum for undergraduates or for the 4-year honors program or 3-year degree plus 1-year B.Ed, when we frame a curriculum that is suited to, Kerala environment, there are a variety of, issues or heterogeneity. For instance, we have government colleges, aided colleges, and self-financing colleges. When we frame an uniform curriculum in self-financing colleges, right now I am in the university as a syndicate member. So if you take the self-financing colleges, 25 to 30% of the teachers are UGC qualified. In the 4th year of the 4-year program, it is research oriented. So my worry is how a common curriculum can deliver the good, in the sense across, organized, government aided and aided colleges on the one side and self-financing colleges on the other. This is a very critical issue to be addressed, for which I suggest that there should be training program exclusively confined to teachers of self-financing colleges in economics. And my last submission is, see, if you take the reference materials, I am fully agreeing with, from the very beginning, Santosh, referred to Joanne Robinson. So actually, even in India, across all universities, reading materials, recommended books, they are almost more than 90%, 90 to 90%, largely tuned to the neoclassical system. Largely tuned to. Even last week, there was a, PG syllabus revision workshop at Kannur University. The teachers are very shy to, address heterodox economic issues. They are very shy in the sense. They are actually in a rigid frame of the neoclassical system. These are the 3 issues I would like to, submit. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ashokan. Now, Dr. Harikurup, are you there? Professor Harikurup. Ah,
Yeah, I am there. Yeah, I was having lunch. So, one, 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, actually, my son was also online here because
Here, no, our main host, no, Professor Joseph, no. He
Ah.
didn't give us tea. He didn't give us tea. He told no, he also skipped the tea. No,
Oh.
And
no,
what is the economics of that? You should
he'll say he's not having lunch, so we will already late lunch. Okay.
Yeah. I just have like I enjoyed the discussions and happy that 1 second. The theme is being presented, by Alex, then Sudhajit Madhu sir and Umman sir, and also him. We need a change in terms of addressing, taking into account the pluralism, that's one thing, but the aspirations of the student community has to be addressed. I think maybe we need to include students in the, even while preparing the syllabus at the university level. Ultimately, what we can do from the KEA side is to give some indications or some broader guidelines regarding that. But when it comes to the actual process and implementation, it has to be done at the university level. I think at that level itself, or even maybe at the KEA level, we should be able to really introduce students from the current students, of course, to the discussion forum. That's all I want to talk now. Maybe we'll deliberate more on that. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to talk.
Thank you very from, in fact, look, here we have participants who did not. Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
They also will go online.
Yeah. Thank you so much for actually initiating this particular effort. I call it as an effort because it is not only demands a kind of our side involvement, but at the same time, equally important to have a policy change. Actually, we want a sort of a 4-year program and we are envisioning many things. But in the draft curriculum framework, which was circulated and presented, had given a lot of anxieties also. For example, we need to actually, the student is having liberty, or we are actually advocating their freedom of choice. But if you have 3 faculty and 5 faculty in a college, how the student is going to have that freedom, which is absolutely absurd in the one side. So in that context, we do have actually an idea, which we are talking about, is a sort of pooling of institutions. So that means clustering of institutions. Now, how we can do clustering of institution? It is only on the basis of subjects. That is discipline-based clustering, not as institutions, because we may not be finding in that sense. If there is also a problem fundamental, because that is what Surajit was trying to make. If you give freedom to students, then are we really going to cater the student in that sense? So if I interested in offering micro or public finance or something, which is I'm good at, then the student can come and pick up. Then what happens the other places also? Because 2 things it will ensure. It will also ensure the specialization on one side. Are we going to open in that line? This is a very fundamental question. For that, you really need a policy change. So we need to have a clustering, we need to have specialization, we need to have actually students who are supposed to elect these kind of things. So this is actually kind of anxiety, which maybe faculty do have, because your current way, your current way is actually your what you call 16 hours of your workload. I mean, if I'm actually offering a paper will that be considered as my workload? Or if the student take that paper, then that will be considered as. So then from the side of faculty, this sort of anxiety will emerge, which is we need to really address. So it is not only framing the curriculum, but also cater in all these aspects, which is very, very important. And if we don't say about all this thing or discuss about this thing, then this larger project we are ensuring or envisioning is not going to cater in that sense, which is very clear. So that is we need to take into account. With that one, I have actually many other points, but I don't want to go into it because I need to give opportunity to others also to reflect. With this, let me thank.
Now, I was about to ask you one question. That's about the college, with 4 or 5 faculty. They themselves deciding that we are going to offer 2 or 3 optionals because of our specialization. Each college will have a different kind of specialization of faculty. So, students may want to have many options, but given our limitations in the colleges with a limited number of faculty and specialization, the students can choose colleges where certain options are given. That would be a more practical thing, because otherwise, students may want to have certain kind of specialization, certain kind of programs, but the faculty may not be prepared to do that. That was the question. This is a larger question that the universities and government should consider.
In the earlier university colleges, they can actually opt. They may be from the next college, but they can have a.
Okay. These are there are many such questions. If you have these points written down, or if you can write it down, in fact, we can coordinate, get all these things, and then put it into some shape.
The new curriculum framework, there is
So somebody from Koyanjeri or 3 people have come. So one of them.
Yeah, and let me thank you for the KA for the great initiative, first of all. I mean,
please introduce also.
Yeah, my name is Suresh George, Department of Economics, St. Thomas College, Koyanjeri. 2 things, actually. Every time when what we're witnessing is when a curriculum is being changed, we are maintaining the 90% of the old one there, and we are adding more and more to that. It's just adding the burden to the students as well as the workload of the teachers. This is what we are seeing. Even for a very pertinent, prominent subject like environmental economics, we are still teaching the types of pollution, 1972 master's treaty and this kind of things. We're still teaching them, and we're not teaching them or kind of thing how to evaluate the cost of an environmental issues or kind of from a practical side. That's already there, and we are just adding the burden to the students as well as to the teachers. And second thing is any curriculum review meetings, our primary focus, already been raised here by many people, especially Alex, our stakeholders, the primary stakeholders are students, and their aspirations need to be taken into account. That's all. Thank you.
I view that we economists are actually, as I was talking on your magnanimity, we are living actually on the magnanimity people. Actually, we are not useful people in the society. Has anyone said so far an economics professor is inevitable?
This point was made.
No, I'm saying, I'm including me. I'm recording. Now, my dear friends, you have an enormous opportunity. You have an enormous opportunity. If we work hard, we can ensure that nothing will move without you. I'm saying you in this state. Can you take the challenge? We must ensure that no student in the state will be given a degree without going and seeing a human being, meeting a people. ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ ഇങ്ങനെ ഇരുന്ന് ഡേറ്റ ഇങ്ങനെ എടുക്കുന്നു, റിഗ്രസ് റൺ ചെയ്യുന്നു, മോഡൽ See, if we ensure that what is called a local economy economics in Brazil, my friends, over there, they do this. Local economics, by which you will be the mastery of database on the region of your concern. നിങ്ങളുടെ റീജിയനിലുള്ള എല്ലാ ആസ്പെക്റ്റും കുട്ടികളെ കൊണ്ട് സർവേ ചെയ്തിട്ട് ലോക്കൽ ഇക്കോണമി ഭാഗമായിട്ട് സർവേ ചെയ്യിക്കുന്നു. അത് ഈ വർഷം പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ ആയി കൺസംഷൻ ആയി വിന്യാസം, ഫെർട്ടിലൈസർ യൂസ് ആയി വിന്യാസം, എനർജി കൺസംഷൻ വിന്യാസം, so many issues will be covered. After 10 years, you will have an excellent data set. You will link up these colleges together to a network. You will show that I don't want to say the very bad words, the GDP data that we have is not very good. You will give the database of that. And you will be very valuable people. Agriculture, എല്ലാ പഞ്ചായത്തിലും അഗ്രികൾച്ചർ ഓഫീസർ വേണേ, ഇക്കണോമിക്സ് ഒന്നും വേണ്ടേ? ഇവിടെ ഓഡിറ്റ്, ലോക്കൽ ഓഡിറ്റ് നടത്തിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. എന്താ ഓഡിറ്റ് എന്ന് എനിക്കറിയത്തില്ല പഞ്ചായത്തിന് കൊണ്ടിരുന്ന എന്താന്ന്. ഹരിലാലെ കൂടെ കഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട് പണ്ട് 96 എത്ര ഹിസ്റ്ററി കേജ് ഉണ്ടാക്കി. ഒരൊറ്റ പഞ്ചായത്ത് ആനുവൽ റിപ്പോർട്ടില്ല. വലിയ പ്രൊഫസർമാർ KJ ജോസഫ് ഒക്കെ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ട്. ഇത് സ്ഥിതിക്കിരിക്കുന്നു, ഇതായിരിക്കുന്നില്ലേ? ഒരൊറ്റ പഞ്ചായത്തിന് ഒരു പഞ്ചായത്ത് മെമ്പറോട് സംവാദിക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. പക്ഷേ മോഡിക്ക് അഡ്വൈസർ ആക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മളെല്ലാം അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യും. മോഡിയുടെ അഡ്വൈസർ ആകാൻ എല്ലാവരും അപ്ലൈ. Let us put our foot on the ground. Local economy, economics തുടങ്ങൂ. നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികളെ കണ്ടവന്റെ തിയറി കാണാൻ പഠിപ്പിച്ചോളൂ. അവനോട് തിയറി ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പറ. He will make theories. The new generation is tremendously competent. Unlike നമ്മളെ പോലത്തെ പൊട്ടന്മാരുന്നില്ല അവര്. നമ്മൾ അവരെ പൊട്ടന്മാരെന്ന് പറ. Okay, so what I'm doing is think of a local economics, a paper, everything should have. Then start from there. And അവിടെ ഗ്രോത്ത് റേറ്റ് വരും. പിന്നെ വേണ്ട പഠിപ്പിക്കുന്ന സ്റ്റാറ്റിസ്റ്റിക്സ് നിങ്ങളുടെ കുട്ടികൾ കൊണ്ടുവരുന്ന രാജ്യത്ത് പഠിപ്പിക്കട്ടെ.
നിർമ്മലുണ്ട്.
എല്ലാരും ഫോട്ടോ കാണിക്കപ്പെട്ട people should show your photo.
Dr. Ibrahim, can you speak now? Are you there?
YC Ibrahim.
Sorry for coming so late to you.
Important people will call at the end.
Philip sir. So if Philip sir is available, MB Philip sir. Philip sir ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു.
Oh, then Nirmal, please. Nirmal Roy.
Thank you. I just want to quickly, am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, I just want to highlight one just small thing to, raise the bar of economics teaching as well as our students. In fact, KE has already understood this, but just for the wider audience, all the college fraternity who are present here, I think this should also start with higher secondary school education also. I think we should extend, the colleges or the universities should extend their outreach activities to the school system itself, because then only we will get good students. So, this is an humble submission to the, wider fraternity, because KE has already understood that, and we should be, inculcating more of these kind of activities. Thank you.
Can I talk? Yes. Can I talk now?
Yes.
See, I'm sorry that I have some engagement, so I could not attend the session, and I don't know what was the main theme discussed here. Then organization, I will talk about it. So what is my
audio problem? And the audio problem.
What? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but
audio issue under some audio issue is there, sir. Sir, can you speak after switching off the camera, closing the camera? Maybe because of the. No.
Okay.
Video is very clear, which means that it is broadband. Ale.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Broadband issue alla, because video is very clear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Samtarikam.
Okay. So my first point is that the present project program in our undergraduate study is highly diluted. One point is that it is done on group basis. So if you move to the 4-year program, it is essential that it should be done individual basis. I know that our teachers will be overburdened as well, but if we separate 1-year program from PG to undergraduation, the project should be done seriously and individually. And if that is the case, what I suggest that in Kerala, either government of Kerala or public undertakings, they are the major employers of the state. And the students should be attached to the government offices and undertakings for highlighting the problem of the study, and they should do some internship there. Then a second point is that interdisciplinary character should be kept. These two suggestions I am putting in the context of undergraduate study in general. And the third point specific to economics is that our core papers, that is the most important papers, micro and macro. Nowadays at the undergraduate level, only in certain selected colleges or certain teachers refer to standard books. And while referring to the standard books, my suggestion is that 20% of the question should come from numerical basis, and the 10 or 15% question should come from algebraic models. And when they are doing the project with respect to economics, it is very important that that should lead to, may not be highly policy oriented, but it should one way or other should lead to some policy suggestions, because then only the research will get the expected outcome. So in short, my points are this, that government should be a major participant for utilizing the service of the students, because it is a major employer in Kerala. And second, research should not be, project work should not be group basis, but individual basis. And interdisciplinary character should be kept. And whatever papers, when I entered, the director of the GIFT was talking about panchayat statistics, etc. Because in our curriculum and the question setting, practical oriented questions are not asked. So teachers and students are not trained in that line. So this composition, 20% numerically based questions, need not be optional papers, but wherever possible, and 15% algebraic oriented, that should result in making conclusions. I know that many suggestions might have come. These are my important points that I want to present in front of these
Thank you, Professor.
Galaxy members.
Another teacher ഒന്നും പറഞ്ഞില്ല ഇവിടെ
എന്താ സാർ, എന്താണ് സാർ?
ചെയർമാൻ കൂടിയാണ് ബോർഡ്, ടീച്ചർ ബോർഡിന്റെ ചെയർമാൻ കൂടിയല്ലേ, ചെയർപേഴ്സൺ ആണ്.
സാർ ഞാൻ കേട്ടില്ല. ഹലോ.
Appreciate the efforts of
you can leave.
എന്തോ ഓഡിയോ പ്രോബ്ലം ഉണ്ട്, ഐ എം നോട്ട് ഏബിൾ ടു ഹിയർ.
ഓക്കെ, താങ്ക് യു. നമുക്ക് സമയത്തിന്റെ പരിമിതി ഉള്ളതുകൊണ്ട് ഇവിടെ അനിത ടീച്ചറൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട്, അവരുടെയൊക്കെ അഭിപ്രായങ്ങൾ കേൾക്കണമല്ലോ നമുക്ക്.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ
Okay, first of all, I appreciate the efforts of Kerala Economic Association. So I am not more going to the topic already discussed, but trying to focus on the methodology of teaching changing from the conventional system of simple pedagogy to the techno-pedagogical system. So I think, or my humble request is to address that teaching means we the Kerala Economic Association need to engage in the capacity building of the teachers, particularly in the context of here we already mentioned the creative thinking, how we can develop the experiential learning in economics. That means the methodology of economics we should focus. So my humble request in that direction is.
Thank you. So I would like to stress on the evaluation aspects. So a good evaluation system is very important. And otherwise, even if you develop a good content, we will not be able to give the we will not be able to satisfy the objective behind delivering this. So evaluation system is very important. How you frame the questions, how you evaluate the students by making some other methods. We're using some other methods like interviewing them, for example, or giving some tasks to them. So evaluation is important, and we should discuss on the methods, different methods of evaluating properly the abilities of the students. And number two, we have not discussed about the curriculum framework provided by the UGC. So in the curriculum framework now, we are going to design, there's a lot of flexibility for the students. The students for the first year, we are just introducing economics to students. And they can take this economics as a major. They are using the word major. And after the first year, they can shift to some other major. So after understanding what is economics, or what are the concepts related to economics, they can shift over to some other majors also. So there's a lot of flexibility for students. Again, they can take online courses. So if they want to take a particular course, they can take it online, even if it is not offered by the colleges. And in the final year, I mean the fourth year, they can even shift their major to minor or minor to major. So that option is also there. And in the first 2 years, we have to develop some general foundation courses, like a multidisciplinary courses, ability enhancement courses. So all this should be in our mind while we are going to frame a syllabus for the UG. I mean a UG course. We are framing a syllabus for the UG course, not for the PG course. They are not specialized. The students are coming without any knowledge of economics. So we should put this in our mind while we are going to frame a syllabus for the or curriculum for the UG students. So thank you.
So we have circulated a feedback form in the chat box of the Zoom platform, so that it is on the basis of that feedback form, we will issue the e-certificate for all the participants. And all the participants who have physically present here, we will give the duty certificate from here itself.
Before I invite our treasurer, Professor Godwin, to say thanks to all, I'll give one more opportunity for one person to speak. Madam.
So my colleague has some clarification for the particular topic.
Sir, I just want to add one more point to it. I represent a rural college, and we handle about 60 or 56 students every year. And what I've noticed is that 90% of the students take up economics thinking that they don't have to deal with maths. Because in the high schools and higher secondary schools of our state, maths is not a compulsory paper if it is humanities. But everywhere else in India, you have to pass at least a +1 level maths where you're introduced with set and relation theory in order to qualify to apply for economics. Now, we have to deal with students who have a lot of fear of maths. And then we have, and last time, when the syllabus revised for Kerala University, Econometrics was introduced in the third semester. Mathematical methods for economics, which is the base of maths, was introduced in the fourth semester, and probability distributions were introduced in the fifth semester. So these are the basics that we need to tackle before introducing econometrics. So the entire, syllabus structure was so haphazard that students found it so difficult, and the pass percentage was also very low, and we were in trouble because we have to explain it. So I think college, economics education in colleges can be improved only if basic elementary maths is made compulsory for people in schools. So that's the first issue that we face. And the second is that very few of our faculties are actually have any practical knowledge on statistical packages or artificial intelligence. So I think I agree with Anita ma'am saying that capacity building of teachers, including us, especially in the case of handling large sets of data like census data, NSSO, NFHS data. We didn't even know. Many of the faculty members itself, we didn't know how to extract this data, where can we use it, how can we use it? And many of us even know only the basic or a little bit advanced level of econometrics and not after that. And also qualitative research methods, many of our students are even unheard of it. And how to do a proper sampling, how to do a random sampling, what is the importance of that? These are all not even taught, not even in MA syllabus. We have a paper called Econometrics and Research Methodology, but the research methodology part is just the last module, and it's just simple theory, how to conduct a research and how to write a report. That's it. But how to practically do it, there's no idea in that. So without solving these technical issues, and one more thing is that, the infrastructure of an average rural college is so poor that you cannot compare it with Karyavatam campus or a college in city level. So with this much difficulty, we have to build a curriculum which can cater both urban colleges and rural colleges like us. Thank you, sir.
ഇപ്പോ യഥാർത്ഥത്തില് വളരെ സമഗ്രമായ ഒരു ചർച്ചയാണ് ഇവിടെ നടന്നത്. ആ ചർച്ചയിലൂടെ നമ്മൾ കേരള ഗവൺമെന്റ് ആണെങ്കിലും ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യയുടെ തലത്തിലാണെങ്കിലും കെഇയുടെ തലത്തിലാണെങ്കിലും ഈ കരിക്കുലം റീഫോർമുലേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എത്ര വലിയ ചലഞ്ചാണെന്ന് നമ്മളെ തന്നെ ബോധ്യപ്പെടുത്തുന്ന ഒരു ചർച്ചയാണ് ഇവിടെ നടന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഉദാഹരണത്തിന് ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ അണ്ടർ ഗ്രാജുവേറ്റ് ലെവലിൽ എടുക്കേണ്ട സമീപനം ഒന്നാണ്, റിസർച്ചിന്റെ ലെവലിൽ വേറൊന്നാണ്, പോസ്റ്റ് ഗ്രാജുവേറ്റ്സിന്റെ കാര്യത്തിൽ വേറൊരു സമീപനം എടുക്കേണ്ടി വരും. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഈ കോളേജുകളുടെ ഡൈവേഴ്സിറ്റി, റിസോഴ്സസിന്റെ പ്രത്യേകത, നമ്മുടെ സ്റ്റുഡൻസിന്റെ പ്രത്യേകത. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മളിപ്പോ പല പാശ്ചാത്യ രാജ്യങ്ങളിലും അവര് യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി എഡ്യൂക്കേഷന് പോകുന്നത് ചെറിയ ഒരു പ്രൊപ്പോർഷൻ ഓഫ് മനുഷ്യരാണ്. അതിൽ പ്രത്യേകം താല്പര്യമെടുത്ത് അതിന് പോവുകയാണ്. അതല്ലാതെ അവിടെ സ്കൂളിങ് കഴിഞ്ഞ എല്ലാവരും യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി എഡ്യൂക്കേഷന് പോകുന്നവരല്ല, അവരെല്ലാം വേറെ വഴിക്ക് പോവുകയാണ്. അപ്പൊ അതിനകത്തുനിന്ന് പ്രത്യേകമായി കമ്മിറ്റ്മെന്റോടുകൂടി വരുന്നവരാണ് അവിടെ ഈ ഇത്തരം കോഴ്സുകൾ ചെയ്യാൻ വരുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ നമ്മുടെ സമ്പ്രദായത്തിൽ എല്ലാവരും തന്നെ പ്ലസ് ടുവിന് പോകുന്നു, പ്ലസ് ടുവിന് കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഹയർ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനിലേക്ക് പോകുന്നു, എല്ലാവരും കോളേജിൽ വരുന്നു. അപ്പോ അവർക്ക് ചേർന്ന വിധത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ നമ്മുടെ കരിക്കുലമൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാക്കി നമ്മുടെ ക്ലാസ്സുകളൊക്കെ പോകുന്ന രീതിയാണ്. അപ്പൊ ആ തരത്തിൽ വളരെ ഒരു കോംപ്ലിക്കേറ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷനാണ് നമ്മൾ നേരിടുന്നത്. പക്ഷേ ഇത്തരം പ്രശ്നങ്ങളെ നേരിട്ടുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെയാണല്ലോ നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് പോകുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ഇത് ഓരോന്നും ഈ പ്രശ്നത്തിനെ കോംപ്ലക്സ് ആക്കുന്ന ഓരോ എലിമെന്റ്സും ഇപ്പൊ ഇവിടെ ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ചെയ്ത് കൂടുതൽ കാര്യങ്ങളുണ്ട്. ഈ കോംപ്ലക്സ് ആവുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങൾക്കിടയിലൂടെ നമുക്ക് എങ്ങനെ കരിക്കുലം റിഫോം കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ പറ്റും? ഇപ്പൊ ഈ എൻട്രൻസ് എക്സാമിനേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, യൂണിഫോം ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു എൻട്രൻസ് എക്സാമിനേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഒരു വലിയ റിഗ്രസീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള സംഭവമാണ്. എല്ലാ ഡൈവേഴ്സിറ്റികളെയും ബുദ്ധിപരമായിട്ടുള്ള ഈ വൈജാത്യങ്ങളെ ഒക്കെ ഇല്ലാതാക്കുന്ന സംഭവമാണ് ഈ കോമൺ എൻട്രൻസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ കോമൺ എൻട്രൻസ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ റിയാലിറ്റിയെ നമുക്ക് കണ്ണടച്ചിരുട്ടാക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. കാരണം കുട്ടികൾക്ക് അവർക്ക് എല്ലായിടത്തും പോയി അഡ്മിഷൻ വാങ്ങിക്കാം. അപ്പം ഇതിനെല്ലാം ടാക്കിൾ ചെയ്യേണ്ട ഒരു അവസ്ഥയുണ്ട്. അതുപോലെ കോളേജുകളുടെ കപ്പാസിറ്റിയുടെ വ്യത്യാസം, ഇതെല്ലാം. അതോടൊപ്പം നമ്മുടെ അടിസ്ഥാനപരമായ കൺസേൺ, അതായത് ലോകത്ത് വരുന്ന മാറ്റങ്ങളെ മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ എക്കണോമിസ്റ്റുകൾക്ക് കഴിയണം. അതിനനുസരിച്ച് നമ്മുടെ തിയറിയും നമ്മുടെ അറിവ് മാറണം, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ട്രെയിനിങ് മാറണം. ഇത്തരം അടിസ്ഥാന പ്രശ്നങ്ങളുണ്ട്. ഇതിന് നമുക്ക് തുടർച്ചയായിട്ടുള്ള ഡിസ്കഷൻസിലൂടെ നമുക്ക് പതുക്കെ ആയിട്ട് ഇതിനൊരു ഉത്തരം കണ്ടെത്താൻ ശ്രമിക്കാം. ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ ഈ പല സർവകലാശാലകളിൽ നിന്നുള്ള വളരെ സീനിയർ ആയിട്ടുള്ള അക്കാഡമിഷ്യൻസ് എല്ലാം നമ്മളോട് സഹകരിക്കാൻ തയ്യാറാണ്. പ്രൊഫസർ പ്രഭാതോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ JNU എന്നുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ, ഡൽഹി യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി എന്നുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ. അപ്പം അവരെല്ലാം നമുക്ക് കൂട്ടി യോജിപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട്, അതോടൊപ്പം ഇപ്പൊ ഇവിടെ ഈ സ്റ്റുഡൻസ്, ഈ ഇന്ന് ചർച്ചയിൽ പങ്കെടുത്ത സ്റ്റുഡൻസ്, അവർ തന്ന ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് വളരെ വലുതാണ്. അപ്പൊ അതിന്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ നമുക്ക് ചർച്ച തുടരാം. എനിവേ KEA എന്തായാലും ഈ ടാസ്ക് നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോവുക തന്നെ ചെയ്യും. ആ തരത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു വലിയ പാർട്ടിസിപ്പേഷനും എന്തൂസിയാസമാണ് KEA മെമ്പർഷിപ്പ് പൊതുവെ കാണിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഞാൻ ഗോഡ്വിനെ താങ്ക്സ് പറയാൻ വിളിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇവിടെ ഡോക്ടർ ഈശ്വരൻ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു 1-2 പോയിന്റ് ചുരുക്കി പറയാനുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ, കാരണം ഞങ്ങളെ നേരത്തെ വിളിക്കാൻ നോക്കിയപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ പുറത്തു പോയി. അതാ
very specific to undergraduate course. I'm not an expert in that way, but in some general points I would like to make. Of course, it is made here. One thing about the teaching quality, that is an important issue. We are talking about the students' weaknesses, but we are not talking about the weaknesses of a teaching mechanism, that is taking place here. Another issue that is also mentioned here in passing. Teachers are afraid of even discussing about the heterodox tradition that someone mentioned here. See, the question is that plurality is an issue that is mentioned here both by Surajit Majumdar and Alex Thomas. This is an issue which is completely missing in this understanding in the undergraduate courses also. They start with neoclassical, and this tradition is actually so deep-rooted that the paper presented here, I was reading it, about 33 pages I read. It's a wonderful paper. All sorts of things we are discussing here, but the entire thing is in a neoclassical framework. There is a problem with it. About 33 pages I read. The whole thing is in a neoclassical
economy. ഒരു സംഭവം ഉണ്ട് അതിനകത്ത്. അതല്ല, അതെല്ലാം നമ്മൾ ഓപ്പൺ ഡിസ്കഷന് വേണ്ടി പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ എക്കണോമി സംബന്ധിച്ച് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാം ആ പേപ്പറിനകത്ത്. ബട്ട്
very big. That's very big. That is mentioned in the earlier pages also about political economy. The whole thing is, I'm very sure, because you see, about the distribution, and you are mentioning the whole neoclassical framework is actually absurd. I would call it. It is a wonderful analysis, neat analysis you can get in neoclassical, the framework. But the whole methodology is unhistorical. So that issue is completely missing in this analysis, and also they mentioned, only Surajit, they mentioned the plurality issue. So a domination of neoclassical economics, the whole academia, is what we have to identify and what we have to emphasize. That emphasis is very important. So then only you can correct this course. So that is very important part which I would like to emphasize. Another thing about the correction of syllabus, it's a larger thing, and we cannot discuss the whole thing here. But I think that KEA should take up this further with detailed and deeper discussions of the whole syllabi. Then only we can come to certain conclusions, certain useful conclusions.
We are going to do that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
We are going to do that. And now
it's only കാരണം സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് തീരുമാനിക്കട്ടെ.
Who are we to say what is absurd?
No,
It is
I
absurd
would
for
agree
you.
with that, whether students
Let
decide,
them
then
create capacity building.
no, students have a role.
No,
But the
no.
teaching this and
No,
that.
don't impose any document. That
We cannot leave
what
it to
is true
students
for me
alone.
may not be. The world is a mix of both right and wrong.
See,
according to me.
cannot
Anyway.
Let me conclude by saying this. See, our distinguished panelists, there was a consensus among them that plurality should be the approach, diversity should be highlighted. And when you speak about diversity and plurality, heterodox approaches will immediately come, and political economy cannot be ignored. And certainly at every stage, students should be at least told that there are alternative views on things. Neoclassical economics is one way of approaching things. There are so many other ways of looking at it. Even if you are not teaching certain heterodox, you cannot cover everything. But even if you're not teaching, students should be told that there are other approaches. So on that, there is, I think, consensus. But then, of course, this is only the first discussion that we are organizing. We will be taking up things more seriously. Now, let me invite Dr. Godwin to say what things.
Thank you. So let me start with an apology on two counts. One, we are delayed beyond, any kind of limit. So I'll stop here because, food is beyond, the question now. Second, also to the invited guests, because, they should have been speaking after, hearing all the discussion, but unfortunately the time question is actually staring at us. So apologies to Professor Majumdar and Professor Alex on that particular count. So this particular program is actually an outcome of any kind of introspection to appreciate what is good in us and what is to be improved upon. So in that particular sense, thank you so much. In one word, one sentence, it's actually an outcome of teamwork that all of us are doing, and also especially to Professor Umman, meaning he doesn't need any kind of he needs more words than what we say, because so dedicated and come prepared at this age as well as Dr. Alex and Professor Surajit Majumdar for having spent so much time and discussing all these issues, to Dr. Hemant for taking laborious kind of an effort that been put into that, and Professor K.N. Harilar, the spirit, we have actually a team, and we have institutional ego, but we don't have any kind of personal ego. That's all the success of the team. And Professor Joseph has been so instrumental and supportive of all our efforts in providing this institution and all other kind of support and all the participants here. And unfortunate that many of us who joined and traveled far off from Calicut and other parts couldn't speak or voice their concerns, etc. But definitely this is just a starting point, and definitely we need to be more responsible and accountable to all of you. And that enthusiasm, as rightly pointed out, helped in moving forward. So thank you so much. And before I stop, let me also say that we want to continue this dialogue on a larger note. A lot of participants, almost 200 plus participants have joined in different capacities here, and they would like to become members, and so that this fraternity grows in a substantial fashion. And the memberships, and one of the important quarters is actually the students, who are the entire purpose of the system, and they should become the guiding force of us. As a part of that's the reason why we have actually 4 students, as equal number of teachers as well as students being part of this. And I'm quite excited by the number of students who are part of this deliberation. Thank you so much, my dear younger friends, for taking part in it. You can also become members, just visit website, and I will share all the details and things, requesting all the support, and because it's a journey we all need to travel together. And especially to my many younger friends here, Devika, the best wishes for your new program at Asim Premji. Naveen Hari, who is traveling to US tomorrow for joining his doctoral program, and Vishnupriya, the young scholar, and Ajima, and all other friends who have voiced their concern and who couldn't, of course. And we would be happy to receive your feedback. This is a continuous process. And once again, I hope I didn't miss any. And if at all there are any errors in the logistics and other arrangement, I take all the apologies. And on behalf of the association, I apologize for all the inconvenience. I'm really sorry about those kind of stuff. Thank you so much. We'll break for lunch.
ഒറ്റ കാര്യം കൂടെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് അവസാനിപ്പിക്കാം. നേരത്തെ പ്രൊഫസർ ജോസഫ് ഒന്ന് സൂചിപ്പിച്ചതാണ്. നമ്മുടെ ഈ ജനറൽ സെക്രട്ടറി സന്തോഷ് വർഗീസും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഗോഡ്വിൻ, ഇവർ രണ്ടുപേരും സീനിയർ പ്രൊഫസേഴ്സ് ആണ്. ഒരുപാട് തിരക്കുകൾ മറ്റു പല രീതിയിലുള്ളവരാണ്. പക്ഷെ അവര് ഇതിനുവേണ്ടി ഇത്രയധികം സമയം കണ്ടെത്തുന്നു. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇതൊന്നും യാഥാർത്ഥ്യമാകത്തില്ല. പിന്നെ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഗുലാത്തി ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ഇൻ ജനറൽ, പ്രൊഫസർ ജോസഫും പിന്നെ അനിത, ബാക്കി ടീം, നമ്മുടെ ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ ടെക്നിക്കൽ സപ്പോർട്ട് തരുന്ന ആൾക്കാരടക്കം ഒറ്റ മനസ്സോടുകൂടി KEയെ ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അതല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക്
ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു അനൗൺസ്മെന്റ് ഉണ്ട്. ലഞ്ച് കഴിക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് KEക്ക് ഇവിടെ ഒരു ഓഫീസ് തുറന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. And we can formally open it. ഉമ്മൻ സാർ ഇല്ല എന്നുള്ള ഒരു പ്രശ്നമാണോ? ഉമ്മൻ സാറിന് എല്ലാം ഉമ്മൻ സാറിന്റെ representative is here. Convey with all in its entirety, without a leakage of an iota of the excitement, convey to you. Okay, let's go up and do that.
Okay.
And those who are healthy can walk up, others can take the lift. To save.
Thanks a lot.